Hello, and welcome to a Bergkamp Wonderland Arsenal podcast. Yes, you are not seeing things. We are live for a third time in about 3 months. We're going to make this regular, but then Josh has always got something to do. Femi's got to count his millions, and Danny's the only one that can push the buttons, and he's always late or doesn't want to organise it. Yes, Danny, that's what I said. So, we're here to talk all things Arsenal because nothing's really happened in the last 2 or 3 months, has it? Really, at Arsenal, like there's not really much to.
Have we had a shot on target since we last podcasted?
We had a shot.
Probably not.
It's really the question to ask if we had a shot.
That's how we generate corners, Karl. It was fine. We've had loads of corners.
Yeah, but how many have we scored from them at the moment? Whatever happened to Corner FC? That we were doing so well, and then not good. Ever since the Muriel got put up under the bridge, just went downhill from there, which is not good. So
never trust Muriels.
I know. Anyway, introducing the people that are talking all things Arsenal today. It is the button pusher, the button monkey, the person with the second worst beard in the pod. Danny, how are you?
I'm very good. I'm currently I am nipple deep in a game called Motor Town Behind the Wheel. Imagine GTA, but without the crime. It's beautiful. It's 16 quid. It's on Steam, and I am loving every second of it. You drive all kinds of vehicles, but it's odd. It's made by Koreans, and they drive on the left, but the game you drive on the right. So I'm constantly in trouble with the popo.
Right.
They're not taking me alive, Karl. Good job there's not weapons in there. I'd go mental on it.
Full Bonnie and Clyde without the Bonnie, or something like that.
Indeed.
Next, talking all things Arsenal, is Josh. How are you, Josh?
I'm very well, thank you. It's been a great week, aside from, should we say, yesterday's performance, but generally,
or lack of,
good. Yeah, I believe 11 Arsenal players turned up at Nottingham Forest, but I'm not quite too sure about it. But yeah,
there's a big difference between turned up and being there, Josh. That's what we realised from yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's good timing as well, because I wondered, Karl, how long this introduction should be before our next person would appear.
All the way live from club level itself, the person who Stan Kroenke comes to for £1 when he wants to buy a new striker in the summer. It is Femi. Hello, Femi.
Good greetings to everyone. Greetings. Looking forward to talking all things. Yeah. I'm going to be the positive one tonight. How about that?
no, you're not, Femi. No, you're not.
I bet you I am.
Give it 20 minutes and it will go downhill. I fully understand. And, ladies and gentlemen, I can't believe I'm about to say this, because even I felt giddy when Danny told me this was happening. This is an emergency podcast, as you clearly well know. And when we have an emergency podcast, it is literally break glass for emergency. So what we've done, we've travelled all the way to the south coast of England to bring out, ladies and gentlemen, the man, the myth, the legend. I can't even say his name. Danny, just let him say his own name. Danny, reveal who he is.
We dug deep this January transfer window because the club weren't going to, and here it is. We spunked all of our money on this.
Hello, everybody. I'm back.
Kris Carpenter, the pirate himself. Kris, it has been far too long. Too long. How are you doing, Kris?
I'm fine. I'm fine. Thank you, Karl. I'm more handsome than ever. Just wonderful. And the best part is, in the time I've been away, Arsenal have got better and better. And no, they haven't, have they? It's all gone horribly wrong. So me coming back will only make it worse. But what a pleasure to be invited into this humble abode once again.
Kris, it is all good. How's the running going, Kris?
Yeah, good, mate. Good. Danny informs me the last podcast I did was, what did you say, November of
last year? It feels longer. That's because I've been an Arsenal fan.
It
Actually,
does.
was it? That couldn't have been November last
No,
year.
you don't mean 4 months ago. You mean
November of November of 23, maybe. That might be more accurate.
Oh no, it doesn't say. No, the last time I sent Karl a link was November. No, even that wasn't.
There you go.
Carry on. I've got no fucking idea what I'm talking about.
I've run a marathon since I'd last appeared on this podcast. So there you go. That's no.
Doesn't count.
Pointless.
Yeah, pointless. But the most important thing is I got a time that syncs quite nicely. It's all the same digits. So that's what's most important. But yeah, not much has changed. Same shit, different day.
It's funny you say that, Kris, because that is an absolute brilliant segue into the Arsenal performance. It's literally the same shit, different day. I believe probably the last time he was on this, Kris, he was probably moaning about we have no players, we have no striker. And
our sporting director doesn't know what the fuck they're doing.
He doesn't know he's a sporting director, let alone what he's doing.
Oh God! But since you're here, Kris, I'm gonna start with you. I mean, this can go back to the even probably the summer, or probably the winter transfer window, where I believe all of us, and I don't think there's an Arsenal fan that was alive that wasn't crying out for a striker, and it's kind of come back to bite us in the arse a little bit. I mean, it's very easy to say that. Some teams don't need strikers, but we do. And the injuries, what we'll talk about later, has hampered us hugely. But do you think from the summer we was on the back foot when we didn't get a striker up until now?
Yeah, I do. We might delve into my tinfoil hat theories on things a bit later on, potentially if we have 4 hours to spare. But it's just it was. I don't like being too harsh because you never quite know, do you, what goes on behind the scenes? You never quite know who's doing what, who's pulling what strings, who's doing various different bits and bobs, if anything. But it just smacked that we've all got the jokes of let's buy another 4 left backs. And the irony being, of course, this summer we're probably going to need a new left back. So I'm looking forward to that head loss when that happens. But, we brought in sort of, a left back who can't defend. But he's very handsome. And we brought in a midfielder that we're now using as a centre forward. So that went well. And it just smacks of gross negligence. And that is a strong word, but I'm struggling to think of other words. And I just think that for a club of our size, and let's make no bones about it, we are the biggest club in London. And if you're a Chelsea fan, you think otherwise, you're an idiot. But keep holding up stupid banners. We are rent-free in your heads. We know it, guys. It's fine. For a club of our size and for a club of our standing, even if you go back to the latter day Graham, and you're all, sadly, we're all old enough to remember the likes of Chris Kiwior. We had a backup forward. We had options. We had somebody you could throw on towards the end of a game. In the latter day Wenger era, arguably we had too many of those. And now it feels like there's something that I don't like about who's pulling the strings here. There was a quote that I saw on, I'm still going to call it Twitter because I'm not weird, earlier on, the Orn apparently was quoted as saying about Mikel's influence on the transfers. And his quote was that he was hugely influential, or has a hugely influential voice, but he was not the only one. He wanted Watkins, however, he doesn't control the purse strings, and rightly so, as he's the coach and the manager. Tell was discussed internally. Arsenal made checks in his camp, but they on the situation, but don't know of anything going further. They wanted a 9, and he isn't a 9. And it's like that's a quote from this transfer window. You could have just chopped that up and put that quote at the end of the summer, and yet 6 months down the line, in arguably the one season, things can change, of course, but this was the season, wasn't it? Like, this was the season. None of us saw what was going to happen to Man City, God rest their souls, but Liverpool they're very good. That's as far as I'm going to go, because I just can't. They're just horrible. They're just horrible lot, but they're very good. But they haven't pulled up any trees, have they? They haven't blown this league away. And I just can't help but feel that if we'd have just had a couple of bodies, and people say, "Oh no, it's not about just having a body." Yes, it is. Like it literally is. Because if you're a football club of our size and you don't have a forward, like it's not like we're saying, "Oh, we got a couple of crap." We don't have a forward. Like it's beyond negligent. So in a roundabout way of answering your question, it started in the summer, it progressed to January, and I worry about the fan base if they don't get it right this summer. That sporting director and that potential forward/winger signing in the summer is massive, because if they get it wrong, you are going to get division in the ground and you're going to get division online again. And we're going to go all the way back to where we started before Mikel came in the first place.
I mean, Femi, we was talking in our group earlier about the sporting directors, and there's so many names that's been sort of bandied about. And I think it was John who mentioned, or Josh, sorry, got it wrong, but who mentioned that Dan Ashworth has been mentioned, the ex-Man United and Sunderland, I want to say. I can't remember where he's come from.
Dan Ashworth.
Yeah, Dan Ashworth. And then there was also there's also reports that we're after Campo from PSG, I want to say.
Yeah, that was in the summer, and then he signed a new contract, didn't he, Chris?
Yeah,
like,
but apparently we're still sort of flirting with it. I mean, would you arguably say, Femi, that the most important signing is probably the sporting director before we start signing any players?
Yeah, you know what? Funny enough, I was having I'm in another group chat with Liverpool and Chelsea fans. Randomly,
wait, hold on.
for some
What?
reason.
You're in another group chat?
Yeah.
Danny, kick him out.
Dirty boy.
Is this your
you know
start?
what?
The
funny thing is, I am always defending Arsenal in that group chat, and then when I come in the ABW group chat, I'm kicking their backs. It's quite weird, but
that's what we have to do. It's the law.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he was talking about the Ollie Watkins thing in January as well, actually, and they were like, "Why didn't you just sign Ollie Watkins?" And I was like, to be honest, if we had a Sven Mislintat in charge, that's probably the type of signing we would have made. That smacks of a Aubameyang type signing. I'm not saying Ollie Watkins isn't good, but the problem you've got is the thing that you mentioned just now. You sign Ollie Watkins, who's 29 going on 30 now, on a 4 or 5 year contract, and then a new sporting director comes in, and he doesn't want to go that direction, or he doesn't see that as the type of direction that he wants the club to go in. Then you're pretty much stuck with this guy. I mean, I pretty much think Arteta will be there 1, maybe 2 years. Is probably what's going to happen. You know, he's a young manager. He probably wants to try something new as well. And then, so the sporting director appointment is more important right now than the manager. I'll be honest with you, because that's the direction. The players that we're signing now from this summer, the player that we're re-signing on new contracts, that's now the future of the club. I'm not saying Arteta isn't. He might end up signing a new contract, but I've just got a feeling that this is probably his last 2 years. He's got 2 years left, or 2.5 years left on his contract. So this is a mightily important a person that we're gonna get. And I mean, if Ornstein is the gospel, then that article that I read today was very, very interesting, because he just basically said, no, Campos is not in the list. He was considered at one point, he's not in the list, and then he just named, was it 5 people? He named 5 people straight up, and he said, these are the 5 people that Arsenal are considering. He didn't close it off. You know, he just has to protect himself in case someone else comes along. But my feeling is, I think it's out of 3 people. I think it's Ashworth. It's the guy from Sociedad is probably number 2. And and I don't know of the other 3. I don't think we're going to get an Italian, the guy from Atletico. That seems a bit left field. I heard that name actually randomly during the week on Twitter. It just came out of nowhere. So for then his name to be on the list did get me wondering, like, well, did someone know something? Or, you know, I'm pretty sure there's people from the club that just tweet out random things sometimes. I bet you there is. Like, I've got suspicions about some of these accounts on Twitter that they're either journalists that just put feelers out because they know stuff, or they're people that actually work in the club that just randomly tweet stuff out that, you know. But anyway, we'll never know. But Yeah, to your point, it's important, and they said it's March. I think it's probably the most important thing that we do this summer, because I'm sure we'll probably talk about it. The list of the to-do list is absolutely insane for this person coming in. And that's why I was saying to Josh earlier that I think Jason Ato is going to get a big role on whatever's on the staff. He's going to get a big promotion, and I wouldn't be surprised to see someone coming in on the Edu level, and then Jason Ato coming doing a job underneath that, like a more prominent job, basically. That's probably the direction I might see the club going in.
I think to smooth it over with Ato, because we'll need him for some form of transition. They'll give him some kind of menial promotion, something. He'll get more money, or he'll get something just to make sure he's in place, and then probably we'll see a year later he moves on. But yeah, I completely agree in terms of, I think before the summer, before January, as soon as it was mentioned from Edu was leaving, this is the most important signing we could have made, and kind of understood why we gave Ato a shot, because we couldn't, realistically, you can't hire a director level position at any business of our size within 3 months. It doesn't happen like that. Even if you could hire them, they wouldn't be in place. So you see what the guy can do internally. It's low risk, obviously. It's turned out to then not be low risk based on what's now gone on and the performance in there. But I think when you look at it strategically, I don't know, I've been buried in business plans for the last month and a half, and you can see exactly why they made this move. But yeah, I think
why they made what move? To do nothing in January.
Why they left Ato in place, not why they didn't sign anybody.
No, of course, yeah. Most, like you say, most directors in football clubs have, especially at that level, have 6-month gardening leave built in, unless they get sacked, like Ashworth did at Man United.
Well, then that's the other thing. We don't know what's in that severance package. There's still going to be a non-compete or something in there which probably says he can jump straight to Arsenal for the January transfer window. For me, I think any company of any corporate responsibility would have something like that in.
Yeah, at least 3 months. But did he even work his notice period at Man United? He wasn't even
no, because he was fired. Yeah, he was fired. But yeah, we saw him get in a little bit earlier, right? They paid a huge fee to get him to sort out his gardening leave from Newcastle. But I think also it would be remiss of us not to check all the options as we're doing right now. And yeah, for everybody who's available, I think, again, to quote our WhatsApp group, for me, the option we should go for is someone who's managed a big transition of a manager, because that's going to inevitably happen. Where at Atletico Madrid, doesn't matter how long you've been there for, even if you saw the transition from Simeone to Simeone, that's still too far away in my mind to say realistically should he be the perfect choice for us. Sociedad have had more turnover but don't operate at that kind of level. Yeah, it's going to be a difficult decision for the board to make, and don't expect it to be done by the end of March, I would say.
So Thiago Scuro, Kris, you might know more about him. He's from Monaco, right?
Monaco, yeah.
Did he take over from Michael Emenalo, is it? Or was he there?
Yeah, from memory, he did. Because I was trying to think, because Emenalo's ex-Chelsea, wasn't he?
Yeah, he went to Saudi League now as they're in charge of the Saudi League.
Imagine going to the Saudi League. Yeah, I wonder why. But Scuro's got a really good reputation in France for. Ironically, he's sort of dual nationality. I think he's Brazilian Italian, and he has brought in a few Brazilians to Monaco. So that would sort of like tread quite nicely in the footsteps of Edu. But yeah, he's well thought of. And the other interesting part about him is he's only 43. I don't know how old the other guys are. I don't think Ashworth's that old, but that would sort of imply that we're looking at a younger figure, whereas I think Olave he must be in his 60s, surely. So I wonder if maybe they might be looking at a younger model. The one I quite like the idea of that's gone quiet was Rosicki. I don't know what's happened there. It's also a bit of a shame that Mark Overmars quite likes employees of a female persuasion, because I think he probably would, allegedly, because I think he probably would have been quite good at the time. But yeah, I don't think that's going to happen now. Lock up your daughters. But yeah, I think Skura is an interesting option. I think trouble is with
actually, you know what I'd say about him was he the one that paid £40 million for Balogun?
He was part of that deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, you know, but then the only thing I would say on this director of football thing, and everything Fem said is spot on, by the way. So I'm not dismissing that. My only slight issue though is I do agree that it's going to take you time, and you have to find the right guy, etc., and so on. But there's no way that we didn't know that Edu was going to be going, you know, at least during the summer, or at the very worst towards the end of the summer. Like those, you probably know better than I do. In fact, all of you in sort of your roles, you all work for good companies. You kind of get an inkling, don't you? If somebody's going to leave, if a manager's going to move on, if a director's going to, you kind of get the vibe that's going to change. And I can't help but wonder why they left that so long, because they knew this was the big season. They knew this was a crucial season. And, you know, I'll come on to how we operate with transfers, but I just sort of wonder to myself, like, if they knew Edu was going, because he was very much behind the signing of Sterling, from what I can gather. And that it's sort of smacks of, like, you know, when you know your boss is leaving, and then he comes in on a Friday and he's like, "What do you want to do then, guys?" Well, fuck it, we'll just sign Raheem Sterling. All right, cool. Like, you know, nobody seemed to know where that deal came out of. It was like desperation, last minute, and we might as well have not bothered. And it just makes you wonder, like, why did they, if they knew he was probably going to be moving on, that process could have started then, you know? So I don't know. And I know the Cronkies divide opinion. I've gone full circle. At first I was like, oh God, this is not going to end well. And now I'm very much in favour of what they've done. To my knowledge, they've never refused the manager money, from what I can gather. And I don't have inside links like some, but I don't think he has, which leads me to another figure, but we might come on to him. But yeah, I just feel like that sporting director decision wheels could have been turning a lot sooner. And even if they'd have got something in the works to cover that January period, that would have done.
But then wasn't the... Sorry, Karl.
No, go on,
to say something. No, just I know we're just rambling on, but this is quite important because it's setting the scene for how the season's gone, really. Wasn't the articles, a couple of articles actually, it kind of said that they didn't take it seriously when they heard the first report that Edu was leaving, because we heard that report randomly came out towards the end of last season. Is, oh yeah, he's going to join the Greek guy, Olympiacos, Nottingham Forest, all of that stuff, and we just laughed at it like, that will never happen. And apparently Arsenal heard that report and they didn't take it seriously. Now the biggest issue, I think, is we had a big change at the top of the club, which was Vinay leaving and who's the guy? Richard Garlick taking over. And it's like something is just, it's like there's been, you know, like when the old boss, like you were saying, was leaving, but he takes all the paperwork with him and he takes some secrets with him. Like Vinay just didn't seem to do a good handover for Richard Garlick, it seems, because Richard Garlick's been just thrown under the bus with all of this. So it's either that he's not competent at doing the top job. I'm worried about this Tim Lewis guy. What is his involvement in all of this, and how much blockers is he putting on a lot of things, transfers and etc. etc. What is he there for? Because since he's been there, like I don't feel comfortable with him as a proxy for the Cronkies. The Cronkies are
dealing with every CFO at every business you've been in, right? That's exactly what he's there for, and they are the most difficult people to get budget past, right? You've got to have it perfect, right? And otherwise, there's no moving. Like we heard with Watkins, that they went in with 40 million.
You've literally just queued up exactly where I was thinking there, Josh. Because my question to you then is, everybody says about like budgets, and we've got to tick every box, and they've got to be the right. When people say, oh, you know, we couldn't just bring in a body, we have to sign the right profile of player, right? That side of things, that is all on Mikel. I do not care what anybody says to me. That is on him. He is honestly, he's insufferable as a micromanager. Take like whatever you think of him as a person or as a football manager, that's completely different. That's over here to one side. As a micromanager, he is a fuckwit. He just is. Listen to the way he talks. Listen to the way he comes across. And I know in the media that you have to give these boring, dull answers. I mean, why we even listen to footballers talk on shows or managers now? It's like wrestling promos. It's all just laid out for him, isn't it, by the HR department? But Mikel is one of those managers that he's a porridge manager. It's got to be just right. And that's where you need somebody above him, which is where Edu was very good to say, Mikel, it's okay. Like, don't worry. If you want to sign this 12-year-old who you think is going to be good enough, we can do that. Like, we're Arsenal. We've got £27.50 in the account. It's okay. Don't worry about it, and that was where he was good. And I think Mertesacker is quite similar in the way he pushes these kids forward from the academy. He says, look, they're good enough, play them. And the point you've made there, Josh, about Watkins is the suggestion was we went in with a Suarez type, well, you think he's worth 60? I'll tell you what I'm going to do. We'll give you 40. And it's like, it's idiotic. And I kind of agree with people when they say that. I think that was a little bit of a placation to the fans. It's like, oh, we're really trying. Bullshit. If you had 40 million quid, that will get you 2 strikers. And okay, they're not going to be, but they're probably going to be above your Lucas Perez levels, your Christopher Ray levels of yesteryear, who, let's not forget, got us crucial goals at crucial times. Sylvain Wiltord is a prime example. What did we pay for him? I know it's different money then, but like 12 million quid got us absolutely crucial goals in those 2 seasons where we won things. Like, there are forwards out there. And when
it was a low risk. It was a low risk transfer window, right? Because of the gaps we had in the squad, anyone who would have been first team potentially in this January onwards to the end of the season could quite easily be second choice come the summer.
100%.
Any winger we brought in would have either sat behind Saka, or we're still probably, doesn't stop you getting, for example, Neco Williams or who's the lad of Bournemouth, Semenyo.
Oh, Semenyo,
Semenyo. Sesko, again, not blocked by us. For example, paying maybe 20, 30 million for Kolo Muani.
Yeah.
If we wanted to make a permanent signing. That's an opportunity.
You mentioned Sesko there. They clearly want him in the summer, right? If they can't get Isaac, they're going to go for Sesko. I would put money on it. And if they wanted Sesko, Leipzig basically did a Sharon Stone. They sat there, they uncrossed their legs, they just revealed a bit of cleavage and went, well, he's not for sale. But if you wanted to come in and offer us some money, we could have a little chat. It's like they were so bent over it was untrue. They were there for the taking. And okay, you might have to pay an extra 15 million to get him out now. But the difference is you potentially have a title sat there at the end of the season to you're fighting to stay in the top 4 now because of what's happened. And the suggestion was he didn't want to join in the summer because we told him Kai Havertz would be first choice. Well, newsflash, when Kai Havertz was signed, he was signed as an 8 and he's ended up as our striker. He wasn't first choice. The difference is now you could have said to Sesko, well, look, sorry about all that in the summer, but you are our first choice. Your goals will get us this title or this Champions League or whatever it is. No guarantee, of course, but that's the project. The player would have come. You just have to put the money down and we're not operating like a big club at the moment. We're just not.
I guess the issue I have is just sort of kind of heading back to what we're talking about. We're going to announce the sporting director probably in like March. You're thinking by now that clubs would know what kind of players that they want to sign in the summer. So by now they're probably, you know, tapping up agents, making contacts with whoever they need to make contact with. Don't you think that March is probably a bit too late? So you say someone's, like Joshua was saying about how, you know, someone gets employed, that person comes in March, then they have to get used to sort of the club, then they have their meeting and they talk about how much budget they've got, and then they're probably already sorted out what players that they want to leave or what players that they want to stay. By all that happens, you're talking probably about end of April. And then you'll decide, and then obviously budgets decide on where you finish in the league. Are we going to finish in the Champions League spots? Are we finishing out? Are we finishing second, third? You know, all of that matters. My issue is that whoever comes in is going to have a lot of work to do. And like Femi alluded to, ideally, if you're talking about, you know, an ideal world, Arsenal probably need minimum 7 players. And that sounds stupid as hell. But Arsenal, I would say, if you think about all the players that we need, and Danny, I'll come to you now. So we need a backup goalkeeper. That's for sure, because Neto is obviously going out. When we saw Neto play the other day, Flip, you could have been in goal, Danny, and probably done better. Like Kris said, do we need another left back? Is ideally is Zinchenko going? Yes. Is Tierney going? Yes. Calafiori, I think the jury's still out about him. We need another centre back, because even if, and we'll probably talk about Saliba later, we have no backup for Saliba. And if you're talking about square pegs, round holes, you could say, okay, Ben White could play there, or you're talking about Timber could play there, but their out-and-out roles are not centre backs. So, yeah, Partey could be leaving or is leaving because his contract runs out this summer, and we had no talk about him renewing. So Partey's leaving, Jorginho's leaving, or Jorginho's contract runs out, and there's been nothing about him signing the contract. So that's 2 centre midfielders that you need. We need minimum of 3 wingers, because again, we kind of have no wingers, and there's been talk about Martinelli going to Saudi for about 80 million. And you know, if you think about it, if Saudi came in 80 million, would you pass that up at the moment?
Nope.
Probably. Like you might take that, and we need strikers. So there's so much that we need to do. So Danny, do you think that 1, we'll get all that work done, and 2, do you think that whoever comes in as sporting director has a little bit too much on his plate?
I don't think we'll get anything as much done as we want. Historically, clubs that are in the position, you know, only one club has ever finished second in the Premier League 3 years in a row. That was us.
Yeah, it was Arsenal.
Yeah, and I would say we're looking like we're going to do it again. We're not going to do it again. We're going to start, like we've all been saying, we're going to start plummeting down the league. But as for the number of players, I mean, we're a big team. We're at the top. But you don't get to the top without being a half-decent team. And so the players like you've listed off there, Karl, that's too many players to come in one transfer window, be it the number of deals that you've got to do, the number of... Because if I was Arsenal, the transfer manager, I'd get the deal done in an afternoon. Do you want to sign for the club? Right. We're not leaving this room until... It would be much like a Guantanamo Bay kind of interrogation. They're not leaving until I get what I want out of them. And so we get all the players that we want, but they're just not going to do it. But I think Arteta will probably have a list of the players that he wants. Because that's if you were doing the transfer managing, the head of football, the director of football, whatever they're going to call this person, you're going to say to Arteta, right, give me a list of all the players that you want. This is what they should do in the order that you want them. In order of preference, and then we go out and you send your underlings out to talk to the clubs just to make an initial plan of what you want to do, and then you start working on them. And once you've worn them down a bit, but then you shift more off the Guantanamo Bay to then do the interrogation. You don't get. I mean, if you're Newcastle and you say, "Oh, there's Jason from Arsenal on the phone," you're not going to go, "Oh, well, this is obviously important." You probably think it's someone to talk about the vending machines or some nonsense like that. When Edu from Arsenal, oh yeah, I'll take the call right away. That sounds Sven from Arsenal. God, yeah, I'll talk to him. No, they're not. Or Vinay from Arsenal. It's a name that has some kind of weight to it. No, Jason. Oh, it's Jason from Arsenal. You want to talk about the players? No. Yeah, tell him we'll call it. Tell him to email us. It's not going to work. But there are so many players that we need. And if we're not careful, I'm going to say the words we all don't want to hear. Saliba, Real Madrid. I've gone there, Karl. I've gone there. It's going to happen. I mean, when I say that, I can see him in a white kit, standing next to who's the England Jude Bellingham, standing next to him.
Arsenal white kid who playing the FA Cup. Yeah, you're right, Danny. I totally
The one we get knocked out with every year.
Yeah, that's that one. I mean, I guess we'll talk about Saliba later because I do want to touch on players that will leave.
There's just so much stuff to do. And do you know that I kept a list because I love a list. 13 people have left the club, non-playing staff, since Arteta has taken over. Vinay, Edu, Wilshere, Jordan Rees, the medical director of physiotherapy, Balvers, who was the video analyst, went to PSV. Steve Round is unemployed. That never got explained. Ben Napper, loans manager, went to Norwich. Gary O'Driscoll, head of medical, went to Man United. Shad Forsyth, performance manager, went to Dortmund. Kevin Betsy, under-23 manager, went to Crawley Town. Andreas Jorgensen, first team coach, went to Malmo. Francis Cagigio, the Argentinian chief scout, went to Chile. Sal Bibbo, goal-kicking coach, went to Brighton. And Wilshere, as we know, went to Norwich. Jordan Rees went to Man United. And Edo and Vinay, we know about. And there is something going on there. There is a mass exodus of 13 people behind the scenes leaving in the space of 4 years. 4 or 5 years. The first one to leave was Sal Bibbo in 2020, along with Kadish Francis to his mates.
It's good. It's good to know after all this time off the podcast, you still can't pronounce shit.
I've got a tooth missing. It impedes my ability to say foreign words.
Francis Cagigao.
Bless you. Yeah, all I know is he's Argentinian, and I mean, Cagigio's on the phone. Oh, hello, I'll take that call. It's Jason. No. I mean, look at him. He looks like a wet weekend in Morecambe. There's no flair. We're a flair club. That bloke should be foreign with a sexy name. Maybe we should get Riccardo Calafiori to do the transfer deals. Riccardo Calafiori. I will have him there, and my wife wants to meet him. 2 million off, and he'll give your wife a seeing to. That's deal done.
I tell you who we need: Linda Block. If you know, you know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Dream team's finest.
Dream team.
There you go. There you go.
Never watched it. But I keep a beady eye, Karl, on the Saudi Pro League. It's basically a thing just to show off and spend your money. Unregistered players. Roberto Firmino, 33 years old. They've unregistered him. They've got the ump with him. I mean, now that they've got the World Cup, they don't need to worry about having all those players there. We know that Ronaldo hasn't won the league in the 2 or 3 years that he's been there. Not that I say that I want him, but it's Ruben Neves is there, Mitrovic is there. I mean, it's not going to be long before Ivan Toney leaves because he's not going to win the league. So you've got so many players over there, but you could get them on loan.
Can't leave.
They can't leave because if they come back here, they get taxed. Yeah.
As Jordan Henderson found out, he earned not a shiny euro for the whole time that he was there in front of massive crowds of nearly 3 figures. I'm done, Karl.
Do you know what, Danny? One thing I want to pick up on is some of the names that you spoke about there. There's 3 names I want to pick up on. And I think they've impacted our season. Jordan
I don't
Rees,
even think I answered Karl's question.
Jordan Rees, who you said is the head of what?
He was the medical director of.
That's
and he
one.
said philosophy. No, physiotherapy at Man United.
Dr.
Chad Forsyth
as well. Chad Forsyth, that's another one.
Oh, Gary O'Driscoll went to Man United.
Thank you. We've lost those 3. And it's for me, I just think it's a big coincidence that we're suffering all these injuries. I don't know who's taken over from them, but for 2 seasons we had a very, very clean record, especially on soft tissue injuries. All of a sudden, I've never seen a club have 3 big. Let's even say 2. Let's say Martinelli just a normal 4 to 6 week hamstring, which is still a big injury, but 2 surgeries on hamstrings in a season. I can't. I mean, I've been supporting Arsenal for how long? I think the only person I ever saw have a surgery on it. No, there's been a couple. Maybe Rosicki, maybe I think at one point because he was out for ages.
I mean, maybe we should probably put aside DRB, Wilshere, and Rosicki as like a separate just broken.
Yeah, but I'm
section.
talking
we
about
have had normal players.
I'm talking about surgery on hamstring, not a hamstring injury, like surgery. Podolski's the only one that I can think of, because having a surgery on a hamstring injury is quite a big injury. That's why it still baffles me when I keep seeing people saying, "Oh, when Saka gets back, everything will be all right." It's like, that's a serious injury that he had.
And even Podolski, the only reason he had it was because he had such explosive legs, didn't he? That's the reason he had to have it repaired, because he hit shots with such ferocity that his hamstrings were weak. So it wasn't like
season. 39 years old, still scoring in the Polish league.
There you go. Do you know what I was watching? Sorry, this just very brief tangent because I'll forget otherwise. I was watching something on Instagram the other day, and I think it was like turn back time to famous goals against West Ham. And I watched Eduardo and I shed a tear. Oh, what a player that boy was. Croatia's Dynamo Zagreb, we got him from for about £4 and a packet of pork scratchings. And barring that injury, I mean, I know it's harder to get these gems now, but oh God, what a signing. How good could he have been?
True.
Yeah, I do think with the injuries is really interesting that without going into the tinfoil hat theory section of the podcast too early, that it's something we've seen at almost every single club has had unprecedented injury crisis.
And the women.
Man United haven't suddenly got a clean bill of health now that Gary O'Driscoll and the other head of physio is now there. They've got no midfielders, no centre-backs, and their strikers are all
no
rubbish.
lunch.
So that's done. Yeah, no lunch anymore. It's horrendous what's going up there. But yeah, it's crazy. You look at even just the mid-table teams that are playing one game a week. You're ending up with, look at Bournemouth. They've barely got, I watched them on Tuesday night, and they've still got Lewis Cook, a midfielder, playing at right back, because they just they've had these season-ending injuries. And
that said, though, Josh, and I do agree with you, but I do think there's something in what Femi says. I don't think it's just about like a couple of members of staff leaving, and I think our good pal
there's certainly our way of football that goes into it. That we're not at the extreme of Postecoglou, where you know, and you see if you look at the data, he's the problem, right?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think, like Jeff put in our chat, you're saying about, the simple fact is certain people just get promotions and they move on. That's worrying in itself, because you would think that we should be like the top tier list. You don't leave Arsenal unless you go to Real Madrid or, like the very top level, put it that way. But I do wonder what Fem's saying there. I think if you have a team that works, because you watch all these documentaries, and again, it comes back to this micromanaging. But when you've got a team of people, Karl might be able to speak on this with his line of work. When you've got a team of people around you and it clicks and it works, and you know that when you come in at 9 a.m., Frank is in at 9:05, and Jason is in at 9:10, and whoever is in at 9:15, and you all work and you have a schedule and you're on a production line or whatever it is, you do your jobs and everything works and everything comes together. You're all fighting for the same thing. Inevitably, when you've got something, Don would speak better on this than I would, but when you've got something like injuries, that is just such a, like these athletes are so finely tuned, in my opinion, way too finely tuned these days, but that's a subject for another day. That tiny little change in that backroom staff, and you take away 2 or 3 people of that long successful staff that have been working together, it's got to have an effect, because somebody coming in, the reason you employ somebody to take over that position when you interview is what's one of the first questions you ask? What can you bring to the role? So you're looking for a young, dynamic individual, somebody who's going to present new ideas, new styles, new techniques, new training methods, whatever it might be, playing the crowd on speakers at the training ground, whatever it is, there's something that separates them from the standard candidates. You don't just replace like for like. So if you have got a whole new medical team, and these athletes have all been trained in a specific way for 12, 18 months or longer, and you take that person out, it probably does have an effect. So I think there is something in what Fem's saying there. We have been unlucky. Like, you can't, whatever way you look at it, you can't take that away. Like, we have been unlucky. But there's also a reason why teams like Liverpool have been lucky. And the word rotation is quite a big one of those, in my opinion.
And also, when you're talking about staff being together, one of the things that Liverpool did when they, you heard this, when they hired Arnie, was they looked at his injury record with his team.
Yeah,
and they've noticed that he's always, at all his club, he's had a 90% availability of players. And funny enough, Liverpool have been the team that have been hit less this season. Even though last season, Klopp absolutely destroyed that squad where they had multiple injuries, just like we had this season. So there must be something. But like you're saying, it could just be football. But then I don't know if it's load management stuff either, because like you're saying, Josh, Bournemouth don't play a lot of games. They don't have a lot of international players. Look at Reece Nelson, for example. The only injury he should have is a splinters on his arse. He just sits on, he's sat on the bench for years, and all of a sudden he's torn his. Did you hear his injury? He popped his hamstring, came back, and now he's torn his hamstring. It's crazy.
In the other leg, wasn't it?
In the other leg,
yeah.
But
That's mad.
I think it was like Kris was saying, these finely tuned athletes are so finely tuned. I can't remember Femi, or was it beginning of this season, beginning of last season, when we were talking about how many teams went to America and how many players tore their ACLs. Like there were so many.
Season, yeah.
And we was like going through it, and I remember saying, I think just before Timber done his, because we were saying like, was it the pitches in America? Was it flying to America? We just didn't know. And it was like, it wasn't just Arsenal, by the way. It was like so many players from so many different clubs who had done their ACLs. And as you've seen throughout sort of last season and this season, there are so many players who kind of have torn their ACLs. But I kind of want to shift the conversation just a tiny little bit where, Arsenal had injuries upon injuries, and we kind of didn't do anything to combat that. I mean, there was a time where we was playing Thomas Partey at right back, where that never works, but Arteta for some reason stuck with it, and it's through necessity because we just didn't have another right back in the squad. And I'm not saying that every team needs like 3 left backs or 3 right backs. Well, we've got 4, but it just seems weird that, like Kris was saying, for a club the size of Arsenal, the stature of Arsenal, we are arguably probably one of the biggest clubs. Well, we are one of the biggest clubs in England, if not Europe. And for us to be so ill prepared. I mean, going into the season, having no Saka, having Sterling as a Saka backup, no Odegaard backup. So when Odegaard sort of got injured, everyone was like, what's happening now? And we played a midfield of Partey, Rice, and Jorginho, which there is zero creativity in that whatsoever. And I mean, we'll talk about Odegaard's form probably in a second, but for Arsenal to have no attacking centre midfield in our squad, because the one that we were going to play, we're playing up front because we don't have a striker. It just screams that someone hasn't done their job. And Josh, like, you work in the corporate world. If a company, they needed all these people, and then when it comes to doing a job, there's no people to do that job, someone's getting fired, correct? Because you're thinking to yourself, someone in the Arsenal organisation, and maybe this is probably really being simplistic, but someone in the organisation that's not doing the job properly, and we don't know the reason why Eddie left or what the reason is, but surely there was a time to fix it, and that time to fix it was a summer. And I know we talk about budgets and who to bring in, but I don't believe in this premise of there was nobody in the world football who couldn't come in and do a job for Arsenal. But I don't believe in that. And I don't know if you think it differently because of the world that you come from, but am I just being too simplistic?
They don't always get fired. Sometimes they leave for a different role in a slightly different organisation for 3 times the money they were on previously in that role. I think that is probably highlighting roughly where the issue was. And I think you've mentioned already that it's not just the Havertz signing that's caused us a problem. I think in that summer we made not bad signings, but two signings that didn't work out in the way we thought they would work for us. And they've both ended up us having to move that player higher up the pitch than where we thought we would be playing them. And it's a detrimental to both of the sides, right? The Havertz came in at that left 8 and we had to shift him up 1 because we found, oh shit, didn't quite work. And maybe that's because the number 6 we brought in at the same time didn't work at number 6. And we're now having to play them box to box because he can't take the ball on the half turn and his passing range isn't good enough for what we needed. And yeah, I think that's the problem. And you've ended up going, shit, I've spent 170 odd million on 2 players. How the hell do I dig myself out of this hole? And you just leave instead. You create a mess and then you leave. That's what most people end up doing in this kind of role or this kind of world, right? And that's where I think the issue lies, is we have a squad that we've brought a lot of players in, and we keep having to patch those poor decisions. But because of the way Arteta, and I think the way we build the squad, we go from back to front and we keep missing going forward because we still haven't resolved the issue at the back, right? That I wouldn't be surprised if we gave Thomas Partey a 1-year contract extension at all. Wouldn't surprise me at this rate right now. Jorginho, I think, is already, going back to Brazil. I think that's all nearly done in that regard.
It's done, yeah. Flamengo.
Yeah. So he'll go back there. The reason why that wasn't done in January, I think, is more, 1, we probably couldn't get someone in. 2, there's no way they're moving the kids over in January to Brazil. He'll do that in the summer instead. So, yeah, for me, we've had a string of signings that haven't necessarily worked in the way we thought they have. And by going back to plan B, we've forgotten about, we keep backloading, basically. We've had to keep buying second choice goalkeepers, for example. We keep having to buy fullbacks because the ones we bought either do their ACL in the first 6 minutes of their debut or Tomiyasu. I don't know where he is at the moment. If anybody, hopefully he's got an air tag on him, so at least the club know where he is. For me, that's the big problem, is our recruitment hasn't worked in the way it would work. But without jumping on a bandwagon, because I'm not on that bandwagon, look at the job David Moyes has done with that Everton squad compared to what it was like under a different manager. It's the same group of players. It's the same, almost same formation. He's not done a lot there.
Well, look at the job Arnie Slot's done with the Liverpool team.
Klopp's players.
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll say for now, right? Because Liverpool got to this situation last year and then fell away. They've always been they always push ahead really quickly, right? It's this time of year now that, unfortunately, we're not there to put any pressure on them.
Totally different. Yeah, like you said, we're not there to put pressure on them.
No one's there to put pressure on them now.
They can rest players whenever they want now.
They haven't been tested. They're going out to PSG, by the way. I'm just going to let you know that now. It's going to be really, really funny, and I'm going to laugh at them a lot when they do.
But I think that's the one that, as you say, the main person in that Liverpool team, the person that's contributed, it's probably a bit higher now, 65% of their goals this year. He's having a record-breaking season, and that's only good enough for an 11-point gap, bearing in mind that team's got a game in hand, that's had a devastating, unprecedented injury crisis. It's still pretty close. Oh, well, of course, we could go right back to August and September. Remember when we got those spate of very, very questionable red cards as well that cost us games.
13-point gap.
13-point gap. But you can tell I don't look at the table anymore, right?
With what goal difference? A 12 goal difference as well.
They haven't had to work for it. This is what cheeses me off the most. Like they honestly, I mean, like we all know I'm gonna try not to like be stereotypical here, but we all know what Liverpool fans are like, right? They're some of the most deluded. Anyway, we know what they're like. I'll just leave it there. But they have been the best side in this league, you know, as grudgingly as I have to admit that they have been. But this year's Premier League has been an absolute farmer league, like it has. You know, you can come on here and talk to me about Ligue 1 being a farmers league all you like, no problem at all. But this Premier League is an absolute farmers league. It's been terrible.
Isn't Scotland, England, and France, the team at the top has got the same points gap.
There you go.
For a podcast
Speaks
I was listening
volumes.
to earlier.
It's been absolutely no challenge. I mean, you know, we all know why City are where we are. Let's be honest. We all know, like, whether it's proven or not, we all know why they are where they are. I cannot. I mean, we all know Pep's a fraud. That's a fact. But aside from that, I had to. It's been a while. But aside from that, to me, it's pretty clear that everything that's been going on off the pitch is the reason for their decline, because it's going to affect the players. Like it just is. Like, you know, you can't guarantee the players' futures. That's what's going to happen. But you look at the rest of them. Man United, absolute shambles. So we don't need. They're not relevant. Chelsea, you know, Maresca ball. Look where that's gone. They were title challengers in November. Remember, guys?
And then he implemented his tactics.
Yeah, exactly. You know, the Leicester effect is ready to roll. Like, it's been a terrible Premier League, and that is not to degrade teams like Bournemouth, like Brighton, Villa to a degree. Like, you know, I'm not a big fan of Villa or their fans, but Emery's done a good job there. You can't deny that. But
I can. They're nice.
Well, yeah, but what I mean is, with Champions League and everything, they've had a decent season, but there's been no challenge to Liverpool, like no challenge, and everything. Like, I mean, literally everything has gone in their favour. Like, isn't it funny how Newcastle just roll over and get their asses licked whenever they play any big team apart from Arsenal? Like, literally any big team, and they just turn up like that Kermit meme, you know, like with their arse held open. Like, that's what Newcastle do. They did it again last night. They play Man City. Oh, Haaland's conveniently injured. Like, everything has gone their way. They're literally carrying a guy who I wouldn't sign for a Sunday League team up front, and they're still going to win the league by 10, 15 points. Like, everything has gone their way. That said, who is it who made the point of Match of the Day last night that everyone is making the point about, and he's absolutely spot on, and everyone is just glossing over it. If you take Liverpool's front four away, they're mid-table. They just are. Like, I can't remember who it was who made the point on.
It was Danny. What's his face?
I can't think of his bloody name.
Can't be Danny Murphy.
No, it wasn't
Danny Murphy.
No, I don't think it was.
It was
No, because he's ex-Liverpool. He refused to say anything. Stephen Warnock.
Stephen Warnock.
Another ex-Liverpool. How did he say
Stephen Warnock. And that's what I respect about his opinion, because he's a former Liverpool player. And if he can see it, like, you know, it is true. Like, it is true. And people talking about Salah, best player in the world. Fuck off. Like, have you seen some of the defenses he's playing against? Seriously. Like, he's obviously a very, very good player. I'm not stupid, but best player in the world. Like, literally, some of those defenses are terrible.
So I'm going to say something now. I said I was going to be the positive one on this podcast. I'm going to say, you gave me 10
what day are we getting ready?
It's dragging down to our level.
Can we guess which thing we're going to say? Is it that St. Totteringham's not going to go our way?
Oh, yeah, that's coming very soon, isn't it? But yeah, let's see how many points we get between now. But what I was going to say is, my biggest issue is not the injuries or the red cards or any of this stuff. Is I think, okay, for example, I think if we had gone to Forest last night or played West Ham on Saturday and we had all our forwards available and the results were exactly the same, I don't think we would have been surprised anyway. I think there's something fundamentally wrong with our style of play, because when we had those players at the beginning of the season, we were all joking about the set piece stuff. Oh, look, we set piece again, ole, all that stuff. You know, we started all those chants because we were literally opening teams up with set pieces. We were creating barely anything. We were like, when they were looking at all those, I don't really understand how XG works. All those XG and chances created, we were mid to bottom half of the league. And that was with the full team available. So obviously, now that we don't have forwards, it's going to drop off the cliff, of course. But there's fundamentally, this is why with the Liverpool thing, teams will figure them out eventually. That's what happens in football. Teams set up to figure you out. Teams have figured Arsenal out. I would say after the World Cup in Qatar, we had an issue. We figured out a new way to play last January with Havertz, and that took us to it tweaked it a little bit, changed the way we played. But since last January, we haven't changed our style of play. We're still trying to play the same way, and teams have decided, you know what? If we defend in a mid-block against this team, we've got a 50-50 chance of doing something, basically. If they don't score early, we'll be in the game for a long, long time. We don't score early goals that much anymore. We don't score after half time that much anymore. You'll see that.
We don't score any goals anymore.
There's some issues that are deep lying that I don't even think a striker alone can fix. I worry about when I see us linked with the same players every single summer. It's like, I don't know what you think, Karl. Like Zubimendi, I'm not going to say whether he's a great player, good player. I've seen him play once fully. What that was against England. That's my first. But what's going to be different if you get Zubimendi? How is that going to change your style of play? You know, what is I'm not saying a bad thing or a good thing. It's and someone's saying that we would have spanked them. You can say that, but when West Ham rocked up at the Emirates last season, they beat us 2-0. Or when we played Fulham earlier this season, we had all our forwards. When Fulham went 1-1, I think we had created one chance between the 60th and the 90th minute. We've seen this over and over again, so we can't say it's a forward. Yes, of course we'd be better, we'd be getting more results with our forwards, but we can't just say, now let's take that out and say, let's stop hiding behind it and not say there's an actual issue with our scoring goals and creating chances. We've seen there's times where a team will equalize in the 60th minute, will do nothing from the 60th to the 90th minute. You've seen that so many times against Aston Villa. I can give you so many examples of this stuff. It's not just one game that I'm picking out, over and over again. So we have to also speak about our own issues. What is the problem, and how is Arteta going to fix it?
I think that links to the shape of the. Sorry, Chris.
No, it's only a quick one. The last time we had an actual striker at Arsenal, Ian Wright. Just going to leave that there because Thierry Henry didn't sign as a striker, so I'm just going to leave that there.
Oh, what about Anelka?
Yeah, not really. He came in.
Well,
as
I guess
a
they were
winger
there.
from PSG.
All right.
Yeah.
Fine.
I mean,
Anyway,
you could argue Anelka, but that's still 20 years
years
ago.
To do the squad. Yeah, I know, try. It's a good thing, Femi, about the squad makeup. We don't. The way that we keep buying players is players that have either control or the players that move forward with the ball don't have the good enough creative attributes to really help us there. I think the other thing you mentioned from Dubai was, we came back with Havertz as a striker, but I think the other thing we worked on massively was that trifecta of Saka, Odegaard, Ben White. And that we haven't seen that all season. I think, thinking back maybe beginning of the season when White got his injury, but that's another core part of our entire attacking threat that just hasn't existed. And as great as Ethan has been, he still has shown he can not barely play a game a week, but certainly he struggles with it. Similar thing we saw with Odegaard when he came in as well. That Odegaard would always come off after 80 minutes, mainly because of the amount of work he'd go through as well. But we can see that we've ended up isolating Odegaard. He doesn't want to be playing 1-2s with Declan Rice, to be honest. And I don't think Declan Rice can play 1-2s with Odegaard. And then if you look on the other side, he's got a young kid that he's probably talking through the game, a fullback that's just coming back from an ACL, a striker who at the moment is currently a centre midfielder who used to play behind him at Sociedad, so isn't used to how those forward runs work. And then you have our completely dead, inept left-hand side that even with our star or starting left winger hasn't been functional for 2 seasons, at least. So yeah, it feels like a real issue we have tactically. And there is a case where when you look at this squad, we'd have to take something from it and maybe take a step back tactically to go, we're going to have to be more offensive. Look at Liverpool's midfield. Sorry, Karl. There's not a single defensive midfielder in that midfield at all. I don't care what anybody says. McAllister and Gravenberch are not defensive midfielders at all.
They're just good athletes.
Yeah, Endo, their actual defensive midfielder, barely plays for them at all.
And when he does, it's at centre back often.
Yeah, and they barely have a defender at right back. And then you've got Andy Robertson, whose legs have gone, and Temper, and Simicast.
He's a bit weird, isn't he?
Yeah.
Andy Robertson. He's got like issues, I think. Yeah.
It's the same as John McGinn. It's something.
He's always angry. Yeah, always angry.
They both also run like gremlins. I don't know if anyone's noticed that.
They do.
Not that I've seen a gremlin run, but it's exactly the stance they have when he's really like trying to get to something. He just runs a bit weird. I can't get my head around it, but yeah. And of course, we've ended up signing a winger whose legs have gone and confidence is shot, and we can't get him back into it at all. Even if we give him a penalty, he misses it.
Who's that?
Can I ask? Can I ask Karl something off the back of
and
that?
then Trossard.
So, a question to you, Karl, and probably to Fem as well, because you go more than us reprobates. When was the last time that you went to a game and thoroughly enjoyed it, like the football that we play?
Man United at home when we beat them 2-0.
And how long ago was that?
We scored with 2 set-piece goals, but that was probably the last game where I went to, at least, and it was a good game. We controlled Man United, but I think as Arsenal fans, we don't really want to say this, but the football hasn't been. I mean, you can make a case for Man City 5-0 at home. Again, that's another game that was good, but you could make a case where the football hasn't been good at Arsenal for a while, and we spoke about it in our group. How many times have we spoke about Arteta wants too much control? How many times have we been 2-0 up and we should go for the third, and we don't go for the third, and we end up drawing? I remember I sat next to Femi during Villa 2, Arsenal 2, and we were 2-0 up and we were cruising, and literally, I don't think they played a forward pass. And I remember sitting next to Femi, and Femi, I'm saying to him, like, we're going to draw this now. And Femi was like, nah, we'll call that. And we just literally couldn't play a forward pass. And when they got their first one, I think that's the first time I saw Femi sink. And he was, because we all knew what was coming. We knew what was coming. And then when they got their second, I know they call they call it the Highbury Library, or like, but I've never heard the ground so quiet. And I think the only thing I heard was, what the fuck? Because it was in disbelief, the fact that we were 2-0 up against Aston Villa at home, cruising, and we literally threw it away. And then even after that, and I think we created many chances. And I remember getting up and saying, Femi, I'm going now. And Femi just sat there, just like, I don't know what to do. Like, literally no one knew what to do because everyone was in disbelief that we were cruising. And so the football hasn't really been good for a while. I mean, we've had games, sporadic games here and there where we've had moments, but I think that, like you were saying, something needs to change. And something that someone just said is that do we need to take a step back to go forward? And is that selling a star player? Or by star player, I mean, is that selling a Martinelli? If he's not doing, so well at the moment, is it getting rid of him to maybe...
Rice will be great as a captain of Everton and that marquee signing to open their new stadium.
Yeah, but we need to do something to change it up a little bit. If the fact that, the Martinelli, he hasn't been, let's be honest, Martinelli hasn't been good this season. Even before his injury, he was struggling. He popped up with a few goals, but still wasn't great. Is it a case of, okay, let's get rid of him to bring someone else in new to try something new, a different idea? I mean, I am very far from Arteta out, very, very far. But it's down to the manager to find a way to get different tactics to get something in. And, you know, this whole playing Merino up front, run to the back post, and it worked against Leicester because Leicester is shit. And Leicester didn't know what to do with that tactic, and it was new. Now every team's seen that's what he does, run to the back post to try and get a tap in. It's not going to work anymore because, like Femi said, people are just wise to it. I think I saw in, was it yesterday in the interview, that the new Nottingham Forest manager said, I only played 4 at the back because Arsenal don't have a striker and I knew they wouldn't create any chances. Do you know what I mean? So straight away, he's just changed his tactics to nullify Arsenal, to know that we had nothing. So it's
did anyone else think, just on that, Karl, where you say it, was anyone else waiting for the shades to fall out the sky and the
I did like it
when he dropped that line. It was just like
when Keown remembered that he was on TV as well, and he can't wring Nuno by the neck.
He saw his whole soul just get on fire. I mean,
it was absolutely true as well, and I think all managers would do that. I think also, why would you play a 3? It's not necessarily about us not having a striker. I think Nuno would say the same thing if Havertz was up front as well, our actual striker. It's more about the movement that they have, that you don't need 3 centre-backs to shepherd the way we attack. No. In fact, it causes you more problems because it leaves you exposed on the wing. So, yeah, I could completely see why Nuno did exactly that.
It's just predictable, isn't it? Like, that's my biggest frustration. Like, I tuned into the so for anyone who doesn't know, I cancelled TNT this year because I'm like, I refuse to pay for their coverage. I refuse to pay to watch that crap. It's just
cancelled.
I'm not interested. A TNT Sport. What was
BT TNT? Sport. They've stolen the Tour de France, the fuckers.
They bought everything up from Eurosport, haven't they?
Yeah, it's all gone across. So I got rid of that. So I full disclosure, I don't watch Arsenal games that are on TNT, and I don't watch Champions League games, right? So I'll just put that out there. But I like to think I know enough about my football to be able to judge, and I do listen to the Arsenal.com coverage. And Adrian Clark's very good on that because he tells it like it is. Like, you know, you might like him, you might not, I don't know, but he's very knowledgeable, and he does love his XG, which I don't, and he does love his stats, which I don't, but he can always back up those stats. And I tuned into the West Ham game on Saturday, and I could tell within 15 minutes of the game that we weren't going to win the game. I wouldn't have said we'd lost it, but I could just tell. Just by the things he was saying, and he was talking about the tactical evolution and you know how we looked quite sterile and how we were doing the same thing and there was no energy, and it's just like, and it's just frustrating. And when you hear the press conference posts like last night, and you hear about, you know, again, I know Mikel's got to give certain answers. He's not going to come out and go, right, here's what we're going to do next game. Here's my tactical blue. He's not going to do that for obvious reasons. But when you hear him say, it's my job. Yes, we know it's your job, Mikel. Like, we're aware it's your job to get the best out of the players you've got because you have no other choice. But you can't keep flogging a dead horse. You can't keep setting up in the same formation, playing the same. What was it? Go back, Christ. This is the throwback. The Arsenal horseshoe of death. You know, back in the old days of ABW. We've been saying it for 4 or 5 years. It's back. It's got a new set of hooves and it's back. Like, it's just pedestrian and it's so laborious and lethargic. You made the point earlier on, Josh, about like what David Moyes has done. Like, they've made Beto look like a good striker. I mean, like, they're not reinventing the wheel. Like, they're just changing things up.
I would go as far as saying that Everton probably at the moment play the most attractive football in the league. In terms of, I've watched 3 or 4 of their games since he's come back in, and it's probably because it's a massive hit of 2000s nostalgia way of playing. It's your wingers, they bomb on, they get crosses into the box for your massive striker, and you've got a either tricky second striker in Alvarez or Alcatraz or whatever his name is. It's one of the two, Alcaraz. Behind there, or you got Decore. So you either got another big target man behind the first target man. It's like Russian dolls. You take one massive target striker out, and there's another one tearing into the box. And yeah, it's just classic. If someone wanted me to describe like vanilla ice cream football, it's that. That's
it's
like,
the same
yeah.
with Wolves. They've
Mm.
transformed their style under their manager. Same with even the struggling teams. Like they've got a plan
Bournemouth.
B.
When I saw Bournemouth, I thought the football they were playing was great. It was great to watch. They just played really well. And I think that's one that, even though they lost, they played attractive football. And I think, Femi, I'm going to come to you, and I might not mention how much your tickets are costing, but even if you won 5-0, would you feel right now you're getting value for money?
I'm so scared of that game. I'm so scared because I think if we could play that game and it's 0-0 or it actually, I'm trying to get rid of my ticket, by the way, because the person that usually gets them, he's on holiday and I already paid for them. So it's already come out of my account. And then he told me he was going on holiday. Imagine that. And I'm worried that if I don't get rid of them before the first leg and something goes horribly wrong in that first leg, I'll be stuck with a £75 ticket. I've already asked the usuals and they was like £75, no way. And that's people that come regularly.
We'll be all right because the first leg's away, Fem. So we'll go over there and absolutely stink up the joint and come away with a successful 0-0. So you'll be all right. Don't worry about it. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
No, I think your real fear is we win that first leg 5-0 and then we come back and play as 0-0.
Oh, God. Don't even.
Imagine that. Yeah. But no, honestly, the club have got absolute cheek. They know they've got people over the barrel, but to charge, I paid £95 for my ticket. That's the highest I've ever paid in my however many years of going, 15 years, whatever. That's the highest price I've ever paid for a single game ticket. And that's on top of the season ticket basically being the price it was when we were getting Champions League game included anyway, which we don't get after 4 games now anyway. We have to pay for FA Cup games. So I've already paid for the Man United game. I paid for the Newcastle game. I chose not to go to the other Carabao games because those used to be a tenner and 20. Now they're like 35, 30, I think, 20, 30, 35, something like that. So those have all gone up. The club are making a killing off of ticket prices. I guarantee you, the financial results last week, we made a 13 million loss, but that was last season. Champions League money has almost doubled this season. And then the amount of money that they charge per match now is on. And now I'm starting to see the crowd is starting to do that thing again where people at the moment, they just get up and leave. I've seen people leave at 60 minutes. They're just like, I've had enough of this. I've seen people leave at 70 minutes. What was the game that everyone just left? They were just, forget this. And they just got up and left. There was a few games like that. People just can't be bothered. It's getting to that stage again. And I was listening to, I think it was Amy Lawrence that said it. She said the reason why it was working so much a couple of years ago, especially with the crowd, there's some things that they've done that I've always spoken out on, like all the stuff with the ballots and all that kind of stuff. I think it's absolute nonsense. The Ashburton army, no matter what people were, the away fan making fun of them, they at least were trying to drum up an atmosphere. They stripped all of them out. There's like even if there's a quarter of what they had before, there used to be like a big, massive section of them, taking them out. The club didn't want to know. They didn't want to promote it. They could have done something with that. And then the other thing that Amy Lawrence said that I was getting to was she said, look, everyone had a buy-in. The club's buy-in was we're going to do everything we can to be the best club in this league. And the fans' buy-in was we're going to support you on that journey and we're going to be as loud. And the amount of times I said, wow, that was the best atmosphere I've ever been to. Daniel will tell you that. I just came on. I was like, wow, that was amazing. The stadium was rocking. I've never felt electricity like that in a venue. And then she said, but now the club are not participating in that that transaction anymore. They're not doing everything they can to be the best club. So now the fans are like, well, the fans are pulling back as well. Like, and it's that strange relationship now where Arteta's being asked, oh, what did you think about the crowd? Did you think, and I think some of the journalists are trying to provoke a reaction out of Arteta to just say something negative about the crowd. And he does say little bits like, it would be better if they, stayed and supported us. But trust me, it's hard. In January, we had 5 or 6 home games in a row. Mate, listen, and it was freezing, it was boring, and we're losing 2-0 to Newcastle with Havertz missing chances on the goal. Like, it was crazy. And those games cost people money to go to, no matter what people think. Obviously, you have a choice whether you go or not. I understand that, but that's the loyalty, isn't it? That's part of supporting a club. But when you're now at a stage where you're paying not only ticket prices, you're paying for travel, the food. I didn't get to eat the other day. Karl, I went to buy food in the stadium. It was £14 for a burger and chips.
Yeah, I refuse to.
£14, and it was £4.50 for a draft drink, Coca-Cola or Pepsi or something like that. £4.50, and I was like, I refuse to. I'll never buy something in the stadium, and it's just like all these little things. Eventually, it does get to people when they're not watching the best football. Let me just put it like that. It will get to people.
But that crowd situation you mentioned there, Fem, to bring it back to where we started, that Karl was saying about selling a big player. I mean, we might as well just mention the elephant in the room now. Players like Saliba are going to look at that. Like, people say, he can't be happy looking at the situation. Like, he is happy. He's very happy. He's spoken a number of times about being happy at the club. But when you are recognised as one of the best centre-halves in the world, and by the way, his partner is not talked about nearly enough as one of those best centre-backs in the world, because he is, they are going to attract attention. And when you are looking at, when you're charging your punters that much money, it's the same in any business. If you suddenly become cash rich, you expect the product to maintain its high standards. There's a big thing going on, and it's slightly different because it's a different business organization. There's a big thing going on at the moment with the gym industry, with Gymshark, who shot to prominence for their their influencers and their gym programs and all this equipment. And now basically, because they've made so much money now, they've got greedy and they're just churning out shite products that just tear and rip, and it's just not very good quality anymore. So people have gone, well, fuck this. I'm not going to influence you anymore. I'm going to go to another platform and promote other gym products. I'm going to sign up for other people. And it's the same with football clubs. You can't keep take, sell your best player every couple of years, and then not put back in.
And then launch a special training kit.
And then launch another Adidas range. But, I don't, to be fair, I don't blame Adidas, because if people are going to keep buying it, that's just good business. It just is. If people are stupid enough to pay 90 quid for a t-shirt, that's on them at the end of the day. And that's just good marketing. I don't blame that. But the actual tickets to go and see the game, we're in the entertainment business. And people have pointed out there's been a couple of good results this season, good performances, but not where you can sort of say that it's been value for money of what they're charging in terms of what you're getting back. And that's all undone with a big sale. And you talk about players like Martinelli. He hasn't been electric this season. I don't think he's been bad. The problem with someone like Martinelli is that he needs pushing. Same with Trossard. They're not bad players, but they need a player pushing them to their maximum levels. If you know that you've got no competition for your place and you can just turn up, you're not going to get the best out of players. And that's where I worry about people like Saliba, because make no bones about it, PSV, we might limp through that. We're not beating Real Madrid. I really worry about that game. And
Saka will be back. It's fine.
Well, and in a weird way, I actually worry even more if it's Atletico Madrid, because I'm very concerned that people might die of boredom if that is the game. I mean, that might be the worst football match of all time if we play Simeone Atletico.
There's something I want to. Oh, I thought you'd finished.
No. That's kind of where I'm going.
Something I want to come back to, Karl, that you were talking about, the style of football. Now, we all know I download all the games because I can't be bothered to get up at 3 p.m. So for the last 5 seasons, I've got every single game saved on my hard drive. And you go back and look at the football we were playing 3 seasons ago, and I thought maybe I'm imagining this. I've gone back and watched some of the games, free-flowing, attacking, playing the beautiful game. So, Karl, I've had a look. Between 21-22 and 22-23, just those 2 seasons in the Premier League only, Odegaard got 22 goals. Martinelli got 21 goals. Saka got 25 goals. Now, that's our front 3 and our striker and our number 10. And Jesus got 10. He only played one of those seasons. And Smith-Rowe got 10 goals. And Nketiah got 9. Xhaka got 8. And Gabriel got 8. Most of that is gone. I'm looking at Odegaard from last season. This season, 2 goals. Last season, 8 goals. We know that Martinelli is doing hardly anything compared to what he was doing. Jesus has only scored in like 3 or 4 games and didn't bother for the rest of the season. Smith-Rowe, I mean, how good would Smith-Rowe be playing in this side at the moment at his peak? That Europa League season when Saka, Smith-Rowe, Martinelli came through, that some of the football we were playing was beautiful. And remember when Emery was here, Karl, and because I know I'll get back to you because you're running this shit. When it started going wrong for Emery, it was, I'm scared to lose, defend. Karl, how many times have we seen this season we'd be 2-0 up at home and then he'll start bringing on defenders, defensive midfielders, holding the game. The only time you do that is when we're away to Man City, away to Liverpool, possibly Spurs, and we're drawing the game and we're going, right, hold this game. He's doing that at home when games are 2-0. He's even started bringing on defenders and defensive midfielders when it's a draw. I mean, how many times has he brought on Zinchenko this season? We need a goal to win this game. He is gone. I'm scared to lose. Someone else mentioned it in the chat, Karl. It's boring, horrible football for 85 minutes of the game.
But like I said, the problem is the control that Mikel Arteta has. We've spoken about it so many times in our group that he would rather have control and go for the win, like go for the jugular. And I think that was a problem in the game that I was speaking about, the Aston Villa game. We were literally cruising. Aston Villa were nowhere near us. And then it's almost like someone said to them, all right, that's it now. We've won the game, pack up shop, let's just control the game.
Yep.
And, Aston Villa score, I think from a head. I think it's Ollie Watkins scored from a head, wasn't it? And then I think it was, oh God, I forgot his name now. The midfielder, the one that we was linked to, he scored as well. And it's just it's a case of like, yeah, Tielemans scored, didn't he? And it's a case of like, why, we're playing so well, keep on doing that. And it's literally, we just stopped. We literally just stopped playing. And, this is it's down to the manager to find a new way, because I believe that if we kept on going, I'm not saying we would have scored 5, 6, 7 goals, but you take it back to a few seasons ago. Do you remember when we was 2-0 down to Bournemouth and we came back to win 3-2? And even that game, I remember, like, even though we were 2-0 down, and when we got the first goal back, I think everyone in that ground knew he was going to go on to win that game. It was so electric because it was just wave after wave after wave of attack. I can't see that. Even if we had all our players now, I can't see Arsenal doing. Obviously now with sort of the injuries we've got, it's just not going to happen. But it's just a case of what needs to change so this nonsense doesn't happen next season. Is it the addition of players? Is it the subtraction of some players? Is some players moving? Is it different tactics, a different formation? Everyone at Arsenal plays their part. Everyone has a role. And Mikel Arteta's role is to find a way to battle against the tactics that other teams play against, the mid-block, the low block. Like Femi was alluding to, we have to find a way to get past that. And unfortunately, in 2-3 seasons, Mikel Arteta has not found a way to get past that mid to low block from other teams. And at a certain point, I think it goes back to Josh will probably remember this as well. Arsene Wenger, it was a case of, I don't care what the other team does. I believe that whatever team I put on the pitch is good enough to beat that team. And I'm not changing my tactics for love nor money.
I will attack.
except of when we when
And
we
I
lost.
guess because he had an array of diminutive playmakers he could bring on, rather than a group of honking great left backs that
But
Arteta's got.
It's the cult of Pep, though, isn't it? This was always my concern with Mikel. Like, and again, like this is not a witch hunt. I'm like you, Karl. I'm far more on the in than I am the out. Like, I don't want it to get back to those days. But he's so fucking stubborn. Like, just try something new. We've got so little players left now that we're ideally suited to a 5-back with wing backs right now. Just try it. Like, it couldn't get any worse than the last 2 games. And if you try something different, as much as like, I agree with what you said earlier on, Karl. I think Calafiori, I think people have to remember he's still young, he's still raw, but he's not a left back. He's not a left back. Certainly not in our structured system. You know, he's bombing all over the place. But it created chaos last night. It gave us something different. And had he not have got that booking, he probably would have stayed on. That was something different. We're just playing this same old, let's say, the cult of Pep. I will play my way. It's control, control, control. I'll stifle the shit out of my progressive players if it kills me. And look where that's got them. Because the minute that everyone works out what City are like, and the minute they lose form, they haven't got a plan B. So everyone just works them out in literally 2 weeks. I mean, Christ, even Tottenham worked them out. So you have to have that plan B. And that's where, as much as I'm loath to give them credit, that's what Slot did really well with Liverpool. He came in, he looked at that squad and he went, okay, well, Klopp's downfall was that he only played one way. High pressure, high press style, all out rock and roll football. And there was, if there was no end product to that and the gegenpressing didn't work, they had no plan B. So Slot looked at that squad and went, well, actually, this squad's probably good enough, but I need to tweak it a bit. We do need to be ruthless, but we also need to be controlled. They have 3 or 4 different ways of playing in any given game, in any different opposition. We don't. It must be so easy for teams like West Ham to rock up at the Emirates and go, well, we know how they're going to play. We know exactly how they're going to play. So
that West Ham game, the last 2 seasons at home, we lost 1-0 and 2-0. Away, we beat them 5-0 and 6-1. Yeah. How does that work?
Because away from home, we play completely differently. Like I don't even know why that is, but what Karl said there, I can't remember even watching, and granted, watching from the TV is different to being there. But I do remember those days that when Mikel took us from where we were, which let's not forget, we were Man United 5 years ago. We were an absolute shit show. He's done amazing things, but it's almost like he's currently hit a ceiling, and it's going to go one way or the other. He's either going to dramatically fall back and regress to where we were, which is my worry, or he'll shatter the glass ceiling and go up a level and take it on. But the difference in that atmosphere, in that period where we got out of the doldrums and we were building something and we had these young, exciting players and he was starting to let them off the leash, that crowd was getting us goals. Bournemouth, like that, the crowd won us that game. Now, like we go 1-0 down and everyone goes, oh, fucking hell. We're going to play around the box for 24 hours, aren't we? We're going to give the ball to Odegaard and we're going to make sure he doesn't shoot because we can't have players shooting outside the box. No. Horseshoe of doom. Like everyone knows it's coming. And the atmosphere is slowly starting to get to that position where you can hear it in the crowd. It's that frustrated. It's not like abuse. It's not like booing, but it's that, it's worse. It's apathy. It's that sigh,
Look at that free kick Odegaard took against West Ham. He just passed it to Saliba and Saliba went, oh, fuck, what are you doing with this?
It's just so bad, wasn't it?
I think it's, Kris, it goes back to what we've been saying about the sporting director, right? How does Arteta push through that ceiling that he's got right now?
Yep.
It's a sporting director. It's someone that challenges him that's above. And we know because of their history, it's not Garlic, it's not Tim Lewis, it's probably not Ato because he's not been in that position before. I think him and Edu came up and they've both hit their respective ceilings right now. That's what this culmination is that both of those key areas have caused a problem with us. And maybe Vinay would have challenged, but again, he's an Arsenal man, but he's not a football man in the sense of sporting football. Again, if Vinay was available at any football club, I think around the world, you'd put him in the position he was at Arsenal. But you wouldn't ask him to manage the team on Saturday at 3:00.
I know we can't.
But, yeah.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I know we can't go back in time, and it's a different era. But I started listening to, and if anyone hasn't read, I listen to books because I'm not educated enough to read.
Do you pay for them?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
I've got a website where they're all free.
Oh, splendid, because Audible are robbing bastards. But anyway, if you haven't read or listened to it, have a listen to David Dean's autobiography.
I've downloaded that.
It is such a good read. And I know he's from a different era, and I know the game has moved on, and I'm not suggesting that he comes back. But in that era, he was a guy who was the guy who went out and got Arsene. All the board were like, no, they went down the Rioch route, and he had to sit in the background and go, okay, you want to go down the Army Sergeant Major Bruce Rioch route? That's fine. But he backed George Graham, he backed Rioch, and when Rioch failed, he went back to, I think it was Sir Chips at the time, and just said, like, no, this guy's right. You know, I know this guy's right. People are going to say Arsene who, and they did, but he knew because he saw what could be done. And I feel like if you get the right appointment in a sort of a Dean-esque figure, that might be what Mikel needs. And also maybe a striker coach wouldn't go amiss. I mean, he's got the pit crew with 475 coaches. Somebody who actually knows a bit about striking and a bit about forward play wouldn't go amiss, because I think there's a lot of yes men in that coaching staff now, a lot. And I don't think it would kill to have somebody, as you say, above him in the sporting director mold, but also somebody who's going to come in and change it and actually say, no, you know, part of your role as manager is to have tactics that bring in the style. And
that's part of pushing him, right? That's part of, you do it with anyone. The person above you in the hierarchy is there to coach you. And
motivate you.
Yeah,
it must be hard for him. Like, you know, for Mikel, he's clearly an Arsenal man. Like, he's not sat at home in his mansion with his family tonight going, I'm having a lovely time. He's hurting as well. Like, you can tell this club means a lot to him. And let's not forget as well, this is his first big job. As crazy as that sounds, this is his first big job. If he fails in this job, he's not walking into Barcelona tomorrow. Like, he's not walking into Man City when Pep goes.
I was thinking about that earlier. What if they did move Arteta out in the summer? Where would he go? Who would have him?
Somewhere like
he given this much time and freedom anywhere else.
Oh, he wouldn't get
Rangers need a manager, don't they?
Freedom.
Yeah, he could. I could see
Rangers.
Atletico Madrid. I could see him there.
AC Milan is where I was thinking, because they're losing again.
Rangers.
Yeah, true. Again, we're not saying he's not. I'm not. You know, again, this is not. We need to change the manager. It's not like that. Like, only a moron would say that, and there isn't another manager out there that would do a better job right now at all. But that doesn't. There's a difference between constructive criticism and asking questions and putting things to a manager and actually sort of saying, like, yeah, we get it. You haven't got a striker. Whether you're in my camp that actually thinks that part of that was based on his decision, and I do feel that way. I do think a lot of that January window is on him. I do, and I know a lot of people don't agree with that, but that's just how it is. But if not, and he has made the decision to have the squad, and we know he likes a small squad, he still has to have that voice challenging him and saying, okay, Mikel, all right, fine. You haven't got the players, but what's your plan B? Why are your subs so terrible for the last 5 years? Like, these are the questions that have to be asked. And man management is one thing, but tactical management is quite another.
We're going for a little while, so I'm going to quickly just wrap it up very, very soon. But I'm just going to ask a few more questions. So, you know, we're in the summer, we're linked to all these players. We've got so many people on the books that, you know, and it will come silly season very, very soon, probably April, where, you know, certain agents will talk to certain journalists and talk about how their players are available, or Arsenal have made inquiries about X player because they want to drive up the price. In my personal opinion, and I'll come to everyone about this, I don't think we get Isak. If Isak carries on the trajectory that he's on towards now to the end of the season, you're talking about possibly 120 plus that Newcastle are going to ask for Isak. And, you know, I've seen a lot of people on Twitter who seem to think that Arsenal can just walk into Newcastle with 80 million and they'll have to accept that if they don't get Champions League football. But we need to remember that on paper, Newcastle are probably the richest club in the world, who they're owned by. So, and I know they've had a problem with the FSP, but Newcastle are very, very rich. They've got money coming out their arsehole. Just because they can't spend it at the moment of FFP doesn't mean they're not rich. So they're still going to want a pretty penny for Isak. So in my opinion, spending 120, 130 plus on one player, which will leave us short because we need to sign at minimum 8 players, I don't think that happens. But the problem is, as everyone knows, we are desperate for a striker. So no matter what striker we go in for, because that club knows we're desperate for a striker, they're going to raise the price.
Yeah.
So,
unless we get one that's on a release clause, which is the one we're going to go after.
That's the future.
Right?
Yeah,
I think that's the thing. That,
on,
I don't want to say where Isak's going to go, but they play in red and they're going to win the league this year because they didn't spend any money this in the window. They made one signing, I think, one first team signing, and he's not at the club.
There's a reason they're letting. There's a reason they're letting their best player walk for free this summer.
Yeah, they'll spend that money because I think as Guns N' Roses says, the Newcastle won't get Champions League. Isak's going, but again, as you say, we could afford what Newcastle want for Isak. Problem is, it'll screw up the rest of our summer budget almost certainly, and what we're trying to do there.
Why wouldn't you do it, Karl? Just out of interest, or is that just you sort of setting up the debate? Like, if you to quote a famous Jay Welsh, it's not my money. So what? Like, if you, we know we're not skint, right? We know we've got the money. We were able to spend 120 million on a player. We still haven't quite decided where he's going to play. So that speaks volumes. What if you? And I agree with you. We do need to bring in quite a number of players this summer, but I think we're all in agreement that realistically, Zubimendi is release clause, and that's going to be, when I say a minimal fee, 50 million is not minimal, but it's not going to be like, you know, ridiculous money. Your backup goalkeeper is going to be 10 quid. Your backup left back's probably going to be a project player, like a younger player. Realistically, the only 2 massive outlays we're going to have to make this summer is or are a striker and a winger. And when I say 2 massive outlays, I don't think we're going to spend 100 million quid on both. I think we're going to be in that like 120 to 150 million bracket between those 2 players. So if I said to you, you can go and sign an Isak, for example, for 120 million quid, and then you've only got, I say only, 30 million quid for a winger, like would you do that? Or would you rather us buy 8 players at 20 million each?
I wouldn't buy Isak for that amount of money, just literally just because I'm really. It's not, like you said, it's not my money. I don't really care. However, it's a lot of money to spend, especially when the squad literally needs a little bit of an overhaul. And the amount of players that will be leaving, you know, we spoke about it at the beginning of this podcast, the amount of players that will be leaving. Just give all that money to one club or one player. I just don't want us to end up in a mess where, you know, get injuries again, and then everyone's like, "Why haven't we got another winger?" You know, because we spent 120 million pounds on a striker who hasn't got anyone to give him the ball to put the ball back in it. You know, it's a vicious circle. But I wouldn't. I mean, I agree with you. Probably be release clause strikers. I just think that we've left ourselves with so much to do. It is unreal, and I don't think a striker solves every single one of our problems. I just think that we're going to have to be very smart with our money and very smart with sort of the way we spend, because I think it's going to be a case of we may need to sell in order to bring people in. And I think that is probably, I mean, I'll come to Femi. I'll ask Femi this question. If there's one player in the squad, apart from the players who we know are going to leave, who you could sell to bring money in, who would it be? So I mean, like one of our quote unquote stars. If there's someone you had to sell in the squad, who would it be?
Can I say Trossard? Is that all right?
No, he's lost.
Belgian Archivin.
You say that Saudi might come back for him like 40 million.
Starting player now. I don't know.
It has to be Martinelli.
No, I don't think Martinelli brings you as much money as someone like Timber.
What?
You've just gone through Martinelli's stats. How many goals has he got in the last 2 seasons?
Nobody knows.
But
Going to get a
we're
lot of money
talking about
for a defender, are you?
Well, you bought him for 40 million.
It's Saliba, isn't it? Let's just be honest.
No,
it is.
Don't say that.
I'm not saying we should, but I'm saying if you're talking about a marquee player, that's the only massive sellable asset, and we all know how this is going to end. We've been here, Patrick Vieira. I'm looking at you. We've been here. We know what Real Madrid do. Real Madrid don't spend money anymore. They activate free transfers. They get in players' ears and they sign them for free. So we know Saliba will be here for another. He won't sign a new contract, unless if you're. Sorry, Fem, I've taken over this. But if you're in Saliba's shoes, you're one of the best defenders in world football. You're an international. You finished the season 2nd or 3rd with Arsenal this season. You're on a good contract. You got a lovely apartment in London. Life is good. You like your manager. You're playing every week. And your agent comes to you in the summer and says, look, Willow, this is the situation, right? Arsenal are putting down a new contract. You've got a choice here. You can sign that new 3-year, 4-year contract. You'll get X amount more money. You can still leave, because remember, contracts are not worth their not worth the paper they're written on. But when you are a player of Saliba's quality, you know that realistically there are only 2-3 clubs in the world who can afford to buy you, right? Because that's just facts. Or you say to him, oh, Willow, what we could do is we could sit on this contract, see what Arsenal do this summer, wait for them, see if they match your ambition. And if they do, we sit down again in January. If not, we'll have a chat to Madrid in January. Like, which one are you taking? Because I'm taking Madrid. I am. Like, you just are. Because unless the club match your sporting ambition, why on earth would you sign a new contract at this particular point in time? You wouldn't, would you?
We don't need to hear the truth like that. We're blinkered. It'll all be all right.
It'll all be fine.
Like George Graham always said, the first thing you do at a club is you build a great defence. We've got the best defence in the league, and we should be building on that base.
Yeah, 100%. And just him signing a new deal, as I say, it doesn't stop him from leaving. What it does do is it puts off. I mean, Barcelona will be linked with him, but again, they haven't got pot to piss in, so they can just go away because they are a joke of a club. But Real Madrid are realistically, Saliba's not going to Saudi. Man City, depending on the outcome of the charges, could afford him, but I mean,
wasn't Rice linked to Saudi recently?
I don't think that's going to happen.
Don't know about that one.
But that's your only sellable asset. Like, and people say people are saying in the chat now, like Rice, Odegaard. No, there isn't a market for those type. There isn't a market for those type of players. They were players we put money in for. Like, they're not marketable. Not now.
Funny enough, I when we were selling all our players last summer, I kept asking, okay, next, because it's not fantasy football. There's not just the effort, the what's it called, the Premier League financial rules you got to stick by. There's also the UEFA one, which apparently are more strict than the Premier League ones. Yeah. So it's not, you can't just say, oh, go and spend 200 million net spend in a summer. It's just never going to happen. You're probably looking, if Arsenal spend 100 million net spend, I think that would probably give Tim Lewis a heart attack. That's probably what we're looking at. And so I looked at it and I said, we don't have, unless we want to sell one of our crown jewels, we don't really have massive, sellable assets, but I don't
And
know.
I
Also, I don't know if
agree.
we do need to sell anyone though. To be honest,
No, I agree.
based on
Yeah.
what we've done, I would expect us to be spending 300 million.
It's
in
not
the
going to
summer.
happen though,
What?
John.
Never.
300.
Even if
I would expect that to
if
go
we had
up.
the 200, if we had a 200 million net spend, you would hear that we're close to FFP either at Premier League level or UEFA level, because they already said we were quite close to the UEFA spending limits last summer. So
It's a rolling
just
3
not gonna
years.
happen.
That's fine, because that's a problem. But what we don't know is when that problem was. So if that was an issue because of what we did 3 years ago, when we also spent massive, that's now shifted across. So we've got, what was that? Declan Rice is a couple of seasons ago. So that's moving everything there. And for me, I think we're spending big in the summer. We've got some smart accountants though, right? How many lawyers have we keep moaning that we've got above there, right? We're going to find a way to spend a lot of money. And we have to.
But it also comes down to the player, right? As well. Again, if you want to use Isak as an example, and Guns and Yellow Ribbons has put in the chat, like, you know, we're being defeatist, and I get what he or she's saying there, but we're not being defeatist.
Fergus.
That's Fergus, okay. But I'd like to think it's a he, but in this modern world, fuck knows. It's just true. But and he's right. You know, you don't want to be defeatist, but I don't think it is defeatist. It's realistic. Like the modern way of football is that players are tapped up, etc. But if you look at a player like Isak, just for example, he can be the Alan Shearer of Newcastle if he wants to be. He can stay there for the rest of his career, potentially win one tin pot and fade into obscurity. He's got ambitions above that club. He does. He will. If you want to sign a player like that, you have to be smart. You know, you have to be in his ear now, and you have to be sort of saying to, if you're Arsenal now, and again, it all comes back to that sporting director who would probably be in the ear of these sort of players now. But you have to be saying to him, look, we're Arsenal. We want to sign you. We want to build our team around you. You can be number 9. You can literally be the player that unites a whole fan base who've been crying out for a striker for God knows how long.
You have no number 10 or 14.
And you sell the project, and then you drive the price down, because you say to that player, you need to make movements that you want out of your current club. That brings the price down. It means you can stagger the deal over a number of years. You've got an unhappy player on your books, and you have to get rid. Like it's the way that the football is.
I mean, we definitely have been speaking to him since he was at Sociedad. But the one thing that I know, so compared to say getting Sesko, and the other thing I say with Isak's injury record, you know that's going to come back and bite us, right?
Yeah.
He'll do his hamstring on the flight across to sign the contract. We all know that.
Exactly. He's currently out at the moment, right, with a groin injury. That's going to keep him out until they play their next cup game, until the final against Liverpool, right? He has got dodgy injury. That's the reason why we didn't go for him before.
Yeah.
I think it's because we didn't trust that injury record.
I think it's like
even if we bought him,
it occasionally skips a generation. So it skipped Newcastle, and whoever gets him next is going to get full ballness.
But he didn't have the price then.
He's been injury prone at Newcastle as well, right? But no one cares because Newcastle's ceiling of what they're trying to do, they can afford, well, not afford, but they missed out on Champions League, right? Because Isak was injured in the league. So he couldn't get the goals they needed to get back into the competition to pay his wages.
Plus, we know Arteta would play him every game for 3 seasons like Saka and break him.
I think the only problem, I would say, and it's not necessarily a problem, but probably stretches outside of the realms of normality, would be that if you signed Isak, I would say almost certainly you have to go and get Sesko as well. You'd have to get both.
You need a project, but then isn't the argument there? So if you go for, because the argument that Arsenal fans will have right now, and I agree with them, is I was on the Isak train when he was in Sociedad because I'd seen him for Sweden, and I was like, this guy is quality. Like you could see it. He's literally the Henry regen, isn't he? In terms of his playing style, cutting in from wide, opening his body up. He's got everything Henry had at that sort of Juventus Henry stage, right? He's moldable. So if you're saying, right, you don't want to spend 130 or whatever million it's going to cost to get him out of Newcastle because of his injury record, you're then saying, right, we're going to have to take a punt on potentially a Sesko, who I do like as a player. I do think he's got a massive amount of potential. And the thing I really like about Sesko is he would force us to change the way we play. He's a different he's a mobile big lad, but he's a big lad. He's a bastard. He'll put elbows in people's faces. He's like John Hartson with hair and ability. But he's got that. Sorry, John, if you're watching, we know you are. But he's got that raw, explosive ability, dare I say, that Darwin Núñez had at Benfica. And this is where you get into that. How much do you pay for a quote-unquote project centre-forward? Because you can go and get Isak now, who, you're taking the risk on his injuries, but you know he's going to come in, he's Premier League ready, bang, hits the ground, off he goes. Gets injured in 2 weeks. I get it. Or you go and get Sesko and you say, right, realistically, he needs the Robert Pires 6 months transition period. And you still don't really know whether you're getting Darwin Núñez or you're getting, another striker who could fulfill that potential. And that's where I do understand the club's hesitancy about going to sign a striker. But that doesn't exclude the idea that you could have gone and got Victor Osimhen on loan for half a season and we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. But he won't get him because he's a difficult character. And we know that Mikel doesn't do difficult characters. So,
Karl, we've got about 15 questions and I can get them done in 5 minutes if everyone's quick.
Go on, then bang them out, Danny.
Oh, I wasn't expecting you to say that. I'm busy. I've been doing my nails. Wonderful. Okie dokie. I've had to trim them because some of you asked lots of questions. I will go anti-clockwise so I can try and finish on Karl. Hold on, that's a thought. You don't really.
Not again, not in public.
No. Our very own Nick, question for Kris. Should Arsenal have gone for Arsenio on loan in January? I remember him from Madrid and I don't know how, and I didn't know he was at PSG.
Marco Asensio, Danny, well done.
I'm thinking of Arsenio Hall. Sorry.
I mean, no. Personally, no, but we should have gone for Colin Mwani, who was also available at PSG at the time. The reason you wouldn't go for Asensio is he's another. If you don't have Odegaard, then yes, but Asensio's not. He's not a striker. He's a hybrid 10 who can play wide. I mean, he would have improved us, but again, fucking Charlie Adam would have improved us in January. So, yeah, personally, no, but I understand why people are a bit angry because he has done he's fitted in well at Villa. So, but yeah, Colin Mwani would have been the one.
Okay, some questions I'll answer because they're really quick. Julio Salmondo says, do you think Arteta is difficult to work with? Hell yes. Josh, question from Julian again. Do you think Arteta's hard press is a big cause of the injuries and tiredness?
I think it's part of it, yes. But it's not the whole issue. It's nuanced, we'll put it that way. But we haven't got the time and I don't have the knowledge to go through all the nuances.
I think we all agree it's part of it, don't we? I think we all agree with that, yeah.
Yeah.
Femi, Drago says, who do you expect to come in as sporting director? We have covered this, but if you had to summarise who do you think it's going to be?
Jason Neto is my choice.
Told you, not having
every time I hear his name, I just think Jason Derulo. I can't get it out of my head. He might do a good job, to be fair. I don't know. He's probably quite savvy in the business world.
Question for Karl from lots of numbers. Given the current state of our fit players in the squad, what is the lowest position you think we will finish in the Premier League?
I think fourth. I can't see. I think genuinely the only team that will probably catch us is Man City. I don't think Nottingham Forest will be up there. I can't see Chelsea doing it, or all the teams are in and around. The problem is if we don't start winning and scoring goals, winning games and scoring goals, we are going to start sliding down the table. There's just no doubt about it. And I think we're not worried about the title that's gone. I think we have to worry about finishing within the top four, and that is the main and only goal for the rest of this season. Champions League, I don't think we'll beat PSV. That's another story for another time. But I think the main goal right now is to make sure we finish in the top four.
That's what I
Fourth
like.
place
A nice,
trophy, run it back.
concise. What did you say, Chris?
Fourth place trophy, run it back.
Oh dear.
Good old days.
Question
It's
for
all right. It's a
Chris.
5th place trophy now.
Yeah.
Well, they've said on AC Jimbo we could have 7 in the Champions League next season.
Oh God, can you
Imagine
imagine?
that. God. Sai says, who is the worst signing, Sterling or Willian? I would say Sterling because the amount of money he's on. At least Arteta.
We don't have to cancel his contract at least.
Yeah,
that's true.
right. Well, he
Back in the
agreed to
summer
do
with
it.
no
didn't he?
paperwork. Yeah.
Chris, how long will Arteta last now? A bit of a negative one. Nobody here wants Arteta out, just to make that clear. But how long do you reckon he's got?
I'll slightly twist the question.
Go ahead.
Rather than saying how long will he last, I would say how long has he got to win a trophy? Because that's a very different question.
Is it about winning trophies now? I'd have thought it's
think-
about winning, being
No,
fourth.
I think we've done the project. We've done the Amazon documentaries. We've done the sound bites. Whether you're in or out, he needs to start delivering now. Like, especially if City get everything thrown at them. Please God.
Because
Yeah.
I think it's 2 seasons, and I think it's
I think
one
too.
reason
Yeah, I
or
was going to say
another.
the same. I think within the next 2 seasons, I think he has to start. And when I say win something, I don't just mean shithouse your way to an FA Cup. I mean the big 2.
Good luck with that. I'll answer this one from Julio. Would you look to move Martinelli on in the summer if half-decent offer came in? We covered this and we all agreed kind of yes. Question for Josh from Jimmy H. With the club not spending in January, was the club showing a lack of support for Arteta or the club getting its powder dry ready for the summer? Or neither?
Neither.
Or both.
I think it's a bit of both and a bit of neither. Let's put it that way. The club clearly wanted to spend or would spend in January, right? We didn't just put in a £40 million bid for Ollie Watkins when Aston Villa came to us and said, we've got a striker that we literally can't sell to any other club around Europe. He will only leave Aston Villa to go to Arsenal because he's a fan.
Was it made that obvious?
Still
Yeah,
didn't get
it was. Yeah. And then we said, okay, sure, we think he's worth 40 million. And they go, oh, actually, by the way, someone wants to ran now. 60 million? Is that all right? Is that all right? And we just went,
hold my beer, 20 million.
Yeah. And we went, no, because he's 29. Of course not. And then backed out of it. And then we screwed the bed or shit the bed elsewhere across that.
Screwed the pooch.
So
Do you think we might go back, Josh? Just out of interest.
Ollie Watkins?
Yeah.
No.
I think we might, you know.
I think it depends on where Villa go because they're a club that is pushing FFP very, very closely. Wasn't it they came out that they are running incredibly hot, like in terms of turnover? I think
They
what their
spend
wage bill was
90%
Yeah.
of their
Of their
turnover
income,
on
yeah.
wages. That's
Jimbo
ridiculous.
said today
Crazy.
that they are the highest ratio of wages to income in the whole of Europe.
Yeah, as Femi
And
said, they are running really hot, and that's the one issue that. Yeah,
And I think they're going to move Morgan Rogers into more of. I think he's going to
What a
mould
player
into more of
he
a
is.
centre forward. Yeah, he's a hell of a player. But I think they're going to mould him into a centre forward. And Watkins' age, we were talking about, like, you know, we need arguably 2 forwards. I wouldn't be surprised if we revisited that. If I'm honest.
I could see them going a bit Leeds-y, should we say, because they've gone very big on getting 2 loan players on huge wages. They'd probably be spending close to 400,000 a week on those 2 players to cover those wages. But
they might get Rashford for free, mightn't they? I think that's what that deal's about. They're looking to rebuild him, and then Man United will then say, well, they'll go back to United and say, well, we can take him, but we can't afford to buy him, but we'll take the wages, and then they get the free deal. So yeah.
Right. Question for Femi, a decent one because you watch the games. Des says, what is Rice's best position and why doesn't Arteta leave him there? We bought him on the back of his best ever season for West Ham, played the entire season as in front of the back 4. And as soon as he comes to Arsenal, he's playing attacking midfielder with Odegaard. That's
in a two.
Not as soon as he came to Arsenal, though. To be fair,
No,
don't be fair.
Yeah.
We put him in 6. He couldn't play there.
I'll say my opinion. I know Josh is just going to fully disagree anyway.
All right, I'll go on mute.
Do it while he's drinking and he can't interrupt.
Just leave him at 6, please. I know all the build-up stuff, all that stuff. Just
What are you saying is a 6?
wherever Partey plays right now,
in front of the back four.
Yeah, just leave him. That's his best position.
It is. Yeah.
It might not be. It might not be his. I see what Josh is saying about his build-up play, his passing, his turning, all of that stuff. But his best position is the 6. That's where you will get the best out of him. Whether it's for our style of football, I'm not saying that, but for him personally. But to be fair, like I'm not going to go on a rant, but that left 8 position is not working. Whoever plays there. So what difference does it make? Yeah. Whoever plays there, it's not working. They need to redefine it and redo it and decide. Xhaka's not there anymore, so stop trying to make a new Xhaka.
I think if we push quickly on transfer or tactics, Rice works at a 6 when he's got another one next to him. That's why he was so good at West Ham. It was him and Souček next to each other, and they came and they dovetailed together. The reason why Rice doesn't work as 6 in Arsenal is because he's on his own, isolated, and he's not good enough for that position. That's the question about why Zubimendi's coming in.
Has he tried playing Partey and Rice together in the 6?
Yeah, we tried that for a little bit, and it didn't necessarily work because we couldn't necessarily have Odegaard as a 10.
What has worked is when last season we played Jorginho and Rice as a double pivot
but
for a few games.
That's why we're getting. Well, I say getting. I don't think people realise how. I know the striker is a key thing. I don't think people realise how big a signing Zubimendi could be.
See, I don't watch him, so people can educate me on him.
He genuinely is elite in that role. Like he really his metrics.
Vieira elite going forward as well.
Different type of player. Different type of player.
Fabio Vieira, Danny.
yeah.
Ronaldo Vieira, the Sampdoria kid. But no, there's only one player in Europe that I would take over Zubimendi, and that's João Neves at PSG. And he's another one that we could have got, but we don't want to pay big money because he went from Benfica. They paid the release clause, and he is unbelievably good. But Zubimendi is like he'll basically be Partey and Jorginho combined, but he'll also free up Rice to find a proper position. And I think you'll probably actually see, in a weird way, I think if they do sign Zubimendi, they won't admit this, of course. They'll PR spin it, but I think it will be them finally admitting that Rice is better in the 6. Zubimendi will come in and play exactly what you said there, Fem, the Xhaka role, because he can tackle, he can travel, he's mobile. He's got an eye for goal. He's got that creative pass. Like his passing is as good as Sesko was when we had him. Like genuinely, it's that good.
Is he a 6 or an 8? That's what I don't get. Is he a 6 or an 8? Or
for me, he's an 8. For me, he's an 8. But he's one of those. But he's one of those that can do. Actually, you said Vieira, Danny. I would liken him more to Petit. It's just one of those players who just smooth as silk, can do everything, can tackle. But Petit never really played in an 8 or a 6 or a 4, did he? He was kind of always in that. He just covered that centre circle area. But people forget he was good for a goal. Petit was, as well as defending. Like, yeah, if we get him, I don't think there's a reason Liverpool wanted him. Let's not forget that.
I'm going to cover 3 quick questions, all from Julio Salmondo. If Rambo goes down, would you like to sign him again? Not a chance. Are we going to qualify?
Seeing him give it back to Stoke, by the way.
Oh, yeah, that was good.
Love that. That was
no,
class.
no.
He means Ramsdale.
Ramsdale.
We meant Ramsey. I was going to say.
No, you want about Cardiff? Yeah, when he was doing it. Yeah, no, not to go down. He's on about Amon Ramsdale. No, he wouldn't sign him, and no, I don't think. I think he's done.
He'll end up, but I tell you where he'll go. I'm calling it now.
Very, very quickly. Can I just talk about how bad that deal was? Because we only get money if Southampton stay up. I think we get they'd say that we've got 7 million. Clearly, Southampton are going down. So really and truly, we had a goalkeeper that was worth 30 odd million, and we practically sold him for less than 10.
Yeah, he wasn't worth 30 when we signed him. Let's be honest. We all loved him, but you know where he's going to end up? I'm calling it now. Leeds. They'll come up. and they'll sign him. I guarantee
The Ramsdale deal, we got 18 million plus 1 million if they stay up, and another 5 million in add-ons. I don't know what that winning the championship. I don't know, playing for England. He's never playing for England again. Yeah, but
league.
Chris has got a point. My Elsa bloke is just he last night he had an absolute
Yeah.
Another shout you might go to is Burnley, because they will lose that keeper to Newcastle.
He's good.
He's
Apparently.
going to Newcastle.
He's 22.
Yeah, so they could
Burnley keeper.
Look at those two clubs probably.
Or good. Chelsea, because they're also looking to get rid of some goalkeepers.
they've got a fine vintage of goalkeepers at Chelsea, haven't they? The best keeper they've got is on loan at Strasbourg, for fuck's sake.
Julian also says, "Are we going to qualify for the Champions League for next season? Does anybody here think we won't?"
No, we will.
No, I think so.
It would be the biggest fall off of all time if we didn't.
We'll finish third at
Jesus Christ,
that's not happening. And
Two
also
between 10th and 5th place.
I know.
2 points. That's crazy.
Don't do it, fam.
No, not us. Those teams are far from us, but I'm just saying 2 points.
I can't go back to Thursday nights.
We'll be fine. Top 3. Julian also says, "Why isn't Arteta playing Butler a J? Because he only uses youth players in an emergency, and that emergency isn't big enough yet when we've got the mighty Mikel Merino up front banging in goals against a team going down. So that's never going to happen. He's 22. Yeah, I said before the show that his next move will be non-league, probably like the rest of them." A question for Karl. Final question, Karl, from Jimmy H. If you are a striker and Arsenal come knocking in the summer, would that player actually see the way we play as a benefit to most strikers because we play in a way that would kill most strikers?
It's a good question, to be fair.
I think the one thing they know is that they're going to play, and I think that's all players sort of care about. One, they're playing in the Champions League, and two, they're actually going to get a game. And I think whatever striker we get knows that they're going to come in and be first choice.
Only choice.
Let's be very honest. And if we make Champions League, all the better. I think, obviously, as a striker or as any player, you're coming into a new club. The first thing you're asking is who else you signing. You know, who else is going to come in? Like you're going to ask that question because you want to know who you're going to be playing with. You want to know if you're going to have a good chemistry. Odegaard, which we never really spoke about, we'll probably speak about on the next podcast, probably whenever that is going to be.
Christmas.
Odegaard's form is shocking at the moment, and I don't know what's happened to him. He's just gone, but that's a question for another day. So you're looking at playing with Saka, you're looking at playing with Odegaard, you're looking at playing with Declan Rice, you're looking at playing with another whoever was going to play on the left, and you look at that squad and you think, you know what, maybe we could do something here because am I the missing piece? Because that's how they're going to say it. When they, like Danny said, when they sit down in Guantanamo Bay and they set in the project, they're going to say, you are the missing piece. Look at what we did without a striker. Imagine we had you. You are going to be that missing piece. You're going to be the person that propels us. So that striker's going to be thinking, fucking hell, yeah, like you not made it to the Champions League with all these injuries and no striker. If I come, I'm going to be that person who's going to get us there. You're going to come. You're you know what I mean? You're going to, whoever is sending, whoever's on that board or whoever's in that room is going to give that person such a big head. You're going to want to go to Arsenal. And I'm not saying this as an Arsenal fan at all. I'm saying this as literally as you. That's how you sell it. That's how you got to literally.
And also, can you play left back?
Yeah, there's that as well. So yeah, I think you're selling it. That's how you sell it, and then you go for that. That striker's thinking, yeah, I'm that person. I'm going to be that guy. I can do this for you. So I don't think any striker is going to be reluctant to come to Arsenal. I think they're going to be happy. But again, it depended on who else you're bringing in. Because if that striker, if you go to that meeting and they say, "Oh no, we're only buying you," then you're thinking, "Fuck." What's going on there?
You don't even have to
look at the two United strikers. The two United strikers came from two very different systems, but were obviously sold to a manager's project, right? Well, let's put it this way. I would put an assumption in that most top-level elite transfers aren't a case of human trafficking. The players had a say in whether or not they want to go.
Christ.
Yeah.
Guantanamo Bay again.
I think Tevez and would have a say about that.
You don't have to sell it though, Karl, do you? Like, you shouldn't have to sell it. You if Arsenal come knocking, you shouldn't have to sell it, should you? If you're
because Arsenal have a different market.
If you're trying, I mean, if you're trying to sign like, if you were going to get Mbappe, of course, yeah, you'd have to. Like if it's somebody who's already established, but if you're going to sign a striker who, even someone like Isak, who is, he's top tier, but he plays for Newcastle. Like let's get real. You're not signing Aguero prime from Man City. Do you know what I mean? You don't have to oversell the project. You just say, look, we're fucking Arsenal, mate. We'll pay you a lot of money. You'll be our first choice striker, and you'll potentially be the figurehead for us winning trophies again. That shouldn't need selling. Like,
and
just put the contract
you also get
down.
to live in one of the best cities for a high earner.
Exactly.
Europe.
Yeah, exactly. And the keys to the castle are yours. You can even have the famous number 9 shirt worn by such legends as Giulio Baptista. I mean, that's
Karl,
it. Sold.
Time to wrap this shit up.
Why are you forgetting Francis Jeffers as well? Come on now.
Oh yeah, true.
Rude.
We could go through the list of number 9s. That's a free podcast for the summer.
Right. This has been absolutely great. Danny, do you think we should probably do this a bit more often?
Well, I mean, it's like it's because is it a leap year? Because how often have we managed to get 5 of us to be on at the same time? And I think Nick, I'm not sure because he never made it clear, might have even been available for tonight. Imagine that 6.
I think let's stick to 1 a month.
Like Arsenal with goals, stick to 1 a month.
Yes.
It should be every couple of weeks at least, unless we need another emergency pod.
Well,
We've not scored since I won my bet, by the way. Maybe I'm the problem.
It's on you. You've always been the problem for us. We always knew that. To be fair, I did say I would be, available as and when I can. So I'm not. Don't call it a comeback. I'm not on every week because I've got shit to do. But I did say I'll pop on every once in a while, so you can count me in for once every couple of weeks.
Lovely.
So when we win the Champions League,
every week, twice a week.
We won't do a podcast. Let's just be realistic, guys. We didn't do a podcast the last time, so yeah.
We'll be doing it from a jacuzzi at Femi's mansion.
Club level. Femi will rent the stadium out for us for the night.
What's crazy is he's even managed to make it daylight there as well.
Yeah,
that's how much
it's amazing.
Pool he's got in North London. He's got the sun up.
Oh gosh, right. Josh, thank you for coming on.
It's been an absolute pleasure, even if Kris was here.
I knew it's coming.
Rude.
Femi, how was the lobster?
Yeah, great. You guys have got my manager messaging me. She thinks I'm online. I'm gonna jump.
That's overtime, Femi. You just work at Underground. That's go to get a good union. They message you after a certain time. That's overtime.
Femi is the union.
I've got some people that can go and strike for you. Don't worry about that.
Of course.
Danny, thank you for pushing the buttons.
Thank you very much for hosting, Karl. Wonderful job as usual.
No worries. And last but no means least, Kris, thank you for coming on and making a very great appearance.
You're very welcome. I question whether the listeners will think that, but I appreciate the kind words. It's nice to see you all.
All good. This has been a Bergkamp Wonderland, an Arsenal podcast. Who have we got next? Who is it? PSV, isn't it? PSV on a Wednesday.
And then Man United, isn't it?
No, Man United, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, is it PSV then Man United?
No, it's PSV then Man United. We haven't got a game this weekend.
Yeah.
That is going to be probably one of the Arsenal Man United in current form. Oh, God, it's going to be a good game, isn't it?
Up the Argyle.
Yeah. This has been a Bergkamp Wonderland, an Arsenal podcast. Thank you very much for listening. And as always, hashtag, you say it, Kris.
Fuck Ellis.